It's been what? I don't know. A couple weeks? Maybe 3? Maybe longer than that. I'm not certain. Anyway, I went ahead and took a small break. I had to go ahead and catch up on all my entertainment shows and whatnot. Stranger Things 2 came out, as you guys know. Also, I was pretty behind on The Walking Dead, so I went ahead and caught up on that. Mr. Robot Season 3 came out, and so I caught up on that too. So now I'm right in the center of the pack of all these people who are watching these amazing shows. Man, like I keep saying over and over, it is the golden age of TV. There is so much good stuff out there. Stranger Things 2, amazing show. Loved it. This season, you can tell they went ahead and put a lot of effort into character building and drama. And what else we have? The Walking Dead? Man, I don't know, dude. That show was one of my favorite shows when it came out. But it seems like season after season, they're getting on shakier feet with me. I think the problem is maybe the directing and writing. You could tell the actors are putting their all into it. And it's not bad, but it's just not as good. I feel like the atmosphere has been lost. But I'm going to stick with it. I made it 8 seasons, so I might as well go ahead and see it through. I need to catch up on Fear the Walking Dead now that I talk about it. A lot of people don't like that one, but I like that one. And then lastly, Mr. Robot. I'm telling you, Mr. Robot is one of the best shows, best directed, acted, the best cinematography. It's one of the best shows that is out there right now. I mean, I love this show so much. They do so much with seemingly so little. You need to catch up on that. You need to watch that if you haven't. It is really good. Anyway, let's go ahead and drop into this. So what do we have for the Exchanges podcast? And this podcast, if you don't know, is dedicated to bringing people together from all walks of life to discuss current issues. This podcast is produced in conjunction with Current Issues Discussion Group, a meetup group that is on meetup.com. And we are based just outside the perimeter in Atlanta. So if you want to go ahead and join us at the round table and have a discussion with us on current issues, feel free to go to meetup.com, look up Current Issues Discussion Group in Atlanta. You can find us and you can go ahead and reserve your slot. So this discussion, really, really good. We talk about Harvey Weinstein and the intersection of position and power and sexual harassment, sexual assault, and abuse. We go into gender roles. We talk about this issue in a 360-degree fashion. I really enjoyed this conversation. Next, we hop into the Niger mission, and we talked about what happened in Niger, Africa, with those 4 Green Beret special forces that died mysteriously. And then lastly, we get into this day in history, where we go ahead and each present a certain event that happened in history on the day of the actual recording of this episode. So we recorded this in October 24th. So that was the day we matched up our topics with in history. And that was an interesting discussion too. We talk about all types of things. We go into YouTube. We go into, what else? Eisenhower. And we go into the Telegraph. I mean, all types of stuff we go ahead and talk about. Then after that, just when you think we wrap up the episode, we continue going. We get into a conversation about movie reviews and, not movie reviews, but we get into a conversation about movies that are currently out today, and we go ahead and offer our opinions on them, and that's pretty funny. You need to go ahead and stick around for that part. Also, don't let me skip it. At the beginning of this show, actually before the even show starts, we spend about 20 minutes or so talking about average heights of people around the world. We even get into talking about European imperialism back in the 15th century. Don't quote me on that. I could be wrong. But you know what time period I'm talking about. So this conversation was pretty broad, man. We traveled on this train really, really, really far. I think that's all I got to say. Oh, as always, I always forget. See, now we're on Apple iTunes. We are on Google Play. And we are on YouTube. So if you are enjoying this podcast, please go ahead and subscribe using whatever service that you're using to go ahead and listen to this. If you're on YouTube, please go ahead and like also. We're in the early stages of this podcast, and we're working out the kinks slowly as we go. As far as the editing goes and how we go ahead and flow with our topics, all that stuff is improving. So stick around with us because we are just getting better and better with each episode. So much is happening in the world. It's just an endless stream of stuff to go ahead and talk about. So I'm also behind posting these podcasts too. I have 2 more after this one that I'm going to go ahead and have to edit and upload, so you guys can go ahead and listen to it on Apple, on your Android mobile device, or on YouTube. Or you can even go to our website. That's right, our website is up. All the episodes are listed there too. All right. Let's see, record time, man. I'm not going to go ahead and keep talking here. Thank you for tuning in, and, sit back, grab yourself a snack, or continue driving, or working on whatever you're doing. You're about to go ahead and pop into an amazing conversation, and I'll see you guys on the tail end. Bye-bye.
Be a millionaire. Whoa, boom, boom, and the simply zoom. I'm in love, I'm in love, I'm in love. I don't care.
What are those guys?
I'll look it up, man. I'll go ahead and look it up in a minute.
The average height of a woman, I bet, is 5'7".
What is the average height of a man? Let's see, in the United States. Let's see what Google tells us. The average height is 5'10".
5'10". There you go. And woman, what's a
Well,
woman?
actually, damn, they have it broken down by race here. The average height for white males is 5'10".
Black man's got to be taller.
Probably.
Because usually they're around 6 foot.
Let me go ahead and open up this here.
Asians would be shorter.
I'm waiting for the internet to open up.
5'10" for a white guy. So a black guy wouldn't be that much taller. I don't think. Maybe 6 foot.
I'm on some random website here. I don't know if we can trust his website. Maybe it's off. Maybe it's wrong. Okay, so the average height for, well, see, this one here.
Woman, female.
Oh, here's the breakdown.
White female.
You get shorter as you get older. That's the thing too.
Well, yeah, because your spine shrinks.
Yeah, you shrink. Let me go to a different website. This website is terrible. Let's see. Okay.
Vegas.
What's the average height for a Korean man?
I would
The
think
average
I'd be
height for
shorter.
a Korean, South Korean man is 5'9".
5'9".
So Korean shorter. Japan, it's 5'7".
Yeah.
Let's
I'm
see
sure
here.
Vietnamese Cambodia is like shorter than that.
Average height for Italian or like kind of middle Europe is
European.
5'9".
Yeah, that's about right.
And so the average height for a middle European woman is about 5'4". Wow.
5'4".
That's a huge jump down.
5'4" for a European woman?
Yeah, like Italian.
Right, yeah, I know. Yeah.
Let's see here. Average male height by country. This looks like a legit website.
That's surprising. Well, I would think
So let's see. Let's go to United States.
Female.
There's a whole bunch of data on men here.
But no for female.
I have to type in females, probably what it is.
Yeah, probably that's what, yeah.
But so the average height of an adult female in the United States is 5'4". That's pretty short.
Yeah, well, 5'4", good. But they want guys 5'9", 5'10".
Yeah,
They don't
right.
want guys their height.
Yeah.
I'm serious.
You gotta wonder why is that. Hey, what's up, Kwaku?
Hey, how you
How you
doing?
been, man?
How's it going?
Like you said, that
pretty
jeans.
good.
It's
What's up, dude?
jeans
How you
because they're 5'4", and they said, I want a tall guy because my kids are going to be torn.
Yeah, I
I'm
don't know.
serious.
How tall are you, Kwaku?
6 foot even.
You're
See?
6 foot. How tall is your girl?
5'6".
5'6". Okay. I wonder what the average like height difference is in between like couples.
Well, I guess it depends if you're black and white. If it's
I wonder if like
by
because there's
race-
a such thing as
by
being
race,
too
it
tall.
gotta be.
There's a such thing as being like freakishly tall, right? Like I don't think a lot of women are like, man, I need a dude who's like 7'2".
no.
You know, and I don't think like there's a lot of guys out there like my
I think, like,
optimal height for
6'3",
a woman is
6'4".
4'3". You know, no.
No, but
so
you find a lot of guys like 6'3", 6'4".
yeah.
Yeah, I would think that. Yeah.
Well, we're talking about just random heights of people and how I guess women are
Like
generally
racially?
looking.
Racially.
Well, now that's what I'm trying to look up.
I think black and white would be about the same. I would think.
No, I think white women are shorter, white men are shorter.
Oh, really?
5'9", yeah. I think black men would be male.
Black men.
They're like
your height,
Central Americans are short. Very short.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay.
I feel Scandinavian.
There's a lot of
had the tallest
Asian women are short.
Do they?
Asian women are
people,
short, yes. I thought that Scandinavians had the tallest people. Maybe I'm wrong.
But a lot
okay.
of short women like tall guys. That's the way it is.
See, I hate how they break this down in inches, man. I'm not good with inches. I'm not good with
How
that
this
math.
started is that I'm only going to live a few years.
Just give me the
and,
feet.
I'm coming back tall. And there's no way I'm coming back short again.
So the
That's how
average
this all
of the height of
started.
the average of an average black person is 5'10".
Huh? 5'10". Yeah.
5'10". So about the
Male
same.
or female?
Male.
I was going to say that's okay.
Black or white?
Black.
Or-
Black man.
Yeah,
We already looked up white dudes. It's about 5'9".
Yeah, it's just
Same thing.
about the same.
Right,
So about the same. And the average height. Guess the average height of a woman.
5'6". Oh,
5'4".
5'4", really?
Yeah.
How about a black woman?
Yeah.
Same thing?
Just American female. That's what they say.
The tallest country in the world are the Netherlands. It says here, according to the Guardian, a Telegraph, which is a good
I thought it'd be like Vietnamese or Cambodian or something like that, like Asian country.
No, they're actually on the shorter side, I think.
You're just thinking of that one basketball player.
Yao Ming?
Yeah, Yao Ming.
Huh?
You're just thinking of Yao Ming, the basketball player.
I'm talking about shorter. I'm talking short people,
shorter.
not tall people.
No, tall is
Well, China
Netherlands,
has a lot of tall
Denmark.
people. No, China is Chinese men are like taller now.
Really?
Yeah.
So what's the height of these people in Scandinavia?
So Denmark is third, then Norway. So Scandinavia has 3 countries in the top 10. And Germany's there, Netherlands. They're all European countries. Like
Walking around,
Western
just giants.
tall people, yeah.
How tall they're?
It's in meters. It's 1.8 meters, which is...
Can't
I
do
would
it.
say that's about 6 feet.
6 feet?
Yeah, 6 feet, yeah.
Average? That's freaking tall, man.
Yeah, that's tall.
It makes sense because of where they live. I mean, it's the diet, genetics, and It's,
I mean,
it's
what does the environment have to do with it? I mean, like,
Well, it has a lot to do with your eating habits. Has a lot to do with your family, how they eat, and how they
just taller
recreation.
people. Something about
Yeah.
being tall in like cold regions or something. Just
Well,
helps
what
you
they
out
eat.
genetically.
It's what they eat. It's diet.
But we're
Diet
talking about
controls-
over like centuries here. We're
Well,
talking about over we're talking about over like a
Well,
millennia
Vikings
here.
were tall. I mean, you talk about like Vikings or Normans were French.
I know a lot of Scandinavians have Neanderthal, like a higher percentage. of
Yeah,
Neanderthal
maybe
blood.
that's what it is.
Yeah.
So maybe it's that.
Yeah,
I want to say
yeah.
they were taller than you.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Can you imagine even living in those times? Like,
Neanderthal or...
like we're talking about prehistoric man, caveman period of time, or like you just
Like if I went back as just myself.
not right now, not you right now. I'm just saying like a general person. We wouldn't make
Be
it.
more
None
like
of us
an
would make
animal.
it.
Yeah. You just have to survive. That's every day. That's all you wake up and do. So
Yeah.
How am I not gonna die? And
Today,
how am I gonna
exactly.
Eat? That's pretty
Exactly.
much your whole day. Every day.
Every day,
It's
just
like, oh.
Because the fire didn't come into play until really late, wasn't it?
I don't know. I mean, I would imagine pretty early. I mean,
I mean, Neanderthal. I've been talking now.
Neanderthal,
Yeah.
Neanderthese.
Yeah.
I don't know what you say.
The use of
Neanderthal.
tools had to be in dinosaur, even before prior to dinosaur.
I imagine the days would just fly by. You just like every day you like get up and your immediate thought is like, man, I'm so hungry. And then it's like, okay, I need to go ahead and make it this many miles because I know winter's coming.
Like 2001: Space Odyssey was a great example of how
Yeah.
like tools. You ever see 2000
Yeah, that's a
the
good
opening
Yeah.
when the guy when the gorilla starts with the bone and
Yeah.
start and they said, "Ooh, tool, boom, death." But it'd be interesting when tools and the fire became iron was later.
I've always been fascinated with the time period in like the great European exploration period of time. I like
13th century.
Yeah, we're talking about imperial, Europe and stuff. The Spanish colonies going over to the Americas and going out
That's
around
the
the
13th
world.
century.
13th century. So that's where it began. I would say, man,
Yeah, yeah, smoked salad.
$2 tacos today, right?
yeah, is it $2 tacos today? Hey, what's up, guys?
Yeah, give me that. Yeah, I got it.
I mean, I'm guessing it's. I mean, it's a
Sorry,
dressing
before we
mixed
talk-
with vinegar.
Okay, yeah, give me that.
Talking about a European explorers.
I've been
Greek
actually
salad,
looking
yeah.
up a little bit
Could I do
now.
that?
Yeah, do you want
The
to
year should actually be the year 12. No, should be
I'm not Cornelius.
12,086. It's not 2,000.
Small.
It should be 12,086.
Yeah. Oh, hey, can I please grab a Guinness? And
This is the best paper I ever.
Is your buddy Lawrence coming back?
and
Said that the
chorizo.
RSVP, there he is.
Okay.
Is it chorizo?
I guess so, because I was thinking of whether to pull up a table or not. I guess Lawrence can sit. Alexandria was the only other person. Hey, what's up, man? Nice to see you again. Thank you for coming out. And she just, Alexandria just went ahead and texted that I bought a new car that's a manual, and I have to learn how to drive it.
Manual?
Alexandra.
Yes!
The girl showed up. Yeah, so she has a
Manual?
Yeah, and she's
Yeah!
learning how to drive it. So she cannot
she
come out
put-
here because she may die on the road.
She's probably jerking.
Yeah, that's all right. We'll catch up with her next time.
This was the,
Oh, really?
So how you guys doing?
Good. How about yourself?
2 hours.
Another day?
I'd love to
How's
see
the past week treat y'all?
Yeah, that
Y'all do
sounds-
anything
I don't know
special
if you
on the game
ever.
Oh, yeah, I watched these.
No?
Yeah,
Just chilling?
well, it's
Not good
a
for
great
me.
debate.
Had
Your
a
news is coming,
family
your
loss,
local news is
but-
going.
sorry.
I'm back in the groove
yeah,
this
yeah.
week.
That's
So.
the problem with
And she had a birthday.
Yeah, and a birthday, so it's
It's just
good
a
and
great
bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
The birthday, you survived another year
yes. I'm a year
Happy
older.
birthday.
Thank you.
around the
Today?
sun.
Saturday.
You actually acknowledge your birthday. You must
Oh,
be
yeah.
young. You got to be young.
No,
you
I'm not.
He can't be over 50. People over
I
50
think I'm going to
do not.
acknowledge my
I
birthday when I'm
see.
50.
I gave
60.
all my birthdays away, and it's work. Sometimes it works.
No big deal.
Yeah, the clock makes you scared, huh? You just like can't acknowledge it. It is not real. We are not getting older.
Exactly.
It's not happening. How you been, Lawrence?
I've got
Hey, what's up,
got
man?
an on-site invitation for November 3rd
Congratulations.
from Texas,
Oh, wow.
Dallas.
Very cool.
Going to Texas for
Potential job.
On-site.
oh, okay, an on-site job there. That's awesome.
On-site interview, yeah.
On-site
Oh,
interview.
cool.
They're paying for you to fly out?
Yeah.
What do you? Sorry, what do you do again?
I'll try to be actually. This one
Oh,
is
cool.
a product analyst. So
Good.
it's not exactly, but it touches the pricing side.
You're going to Dallas or Houston or
Dallas.
Dallas?
Man, that's
Yeah,
Terrible.
Luck.
Yeah, dude.
well, if they're
But I
paying
really
for you to
want
come out there.
That's a promise.
That's a
really
really
want
good
the job.
Right.
Like the fake the news thing, the debate. They had a big discussion on the internet. How people are relying on Facebook news, and it's the worst place to find like what's happening in the world. It's the internet, the worst thing. Like Facebook, and that's where your fake news is coming from.
Well, I
But
don't
the
know.
internet's big. I mean, Facebook
Yeah, I mean,
is.
like Twitter, and it's all opinions, and I think
Well,
it's,
we have to assume that people aren't just like drones out here believing the first thing that they see. Most people don't do that.
right, it's a growing thing now. Everyone looks at Facebook news. No one's looking.
I think that
Reading
there's a
newspapers, yeah.
baseline of like digesting news, right? Where like
That's a good.
most people will go ahead
That's a
and
good
see a-
topic. Freedom of speech and newspapers.
Yeah.
And
And,
even news, I mean, if you read random newspaper, it's going to put its news towards the target audience. So if you read Wall Street journals, it will be more towards Democrats. I mean, so
well, yeah, but there's some newspapers like New York Times and Washington Post, and there's, everyone says they're biased.
they say they're biased. They've got spectrum ratings on news.
Right, but the editorial section has nothing to do with a right or a left wing, because
Well,
they
that's
have
my
right
big
wing
beef
commentators
with,
and
like-
left wing commentators in New York Times. And same with the Washington Post. If you read the editorial page,
Yeah.
See, that's my big
the
beef
bias.
with broadcast news, is that like a lot of broadcast news, CNN, Fox News, and stuff like that, the large part of their time slot is blocked for pundits, on TV, people who give their opinions about the news.
Right.
But there's like a small segment of actual like news.
Yeah.
They're just dudes sitting
I know.
around talking about what they believe.
I think the
And
internet
pretty-
is
yeah,
addictive.
exactly.
I really think it's
That's
addictive
my
to a lot
problem
of
with
people. I
like
mean,
broadcast.
There's no doubt.
I don't want to be a stay-at-home eyeballs bulging and doing this all day. I want to go out, enjoy some, meet people.
Sure.
Nothing else. I don't like the internet. It's,
I feel ya.
The internet at all, or
huh?
like, are you just talking about the internet as a general.
Well, the only thing I use the internet now is the emails. Sending it to friends, email to people, the friends I met overseas, and things like that. But I don't look at these apps or anything. I don't even know what an app is, to be honest with
Pretty
you.
cool, man. I'm telling you,
Yeah.
it'll change your life
It would.
if you get the correct app. Really, there are lots of apps.
So
I have Verizon.
my phone is iPhone 6 Plus. This is my first smartphone.
Really?
Like before this, I've always had like kind of like burner phones, just
Right.
like BlackBerry keyboard type phones. And I always stuck away from them because I was like, man, I don't want to get sucked into the technology. But then it came to the point where I was like, I got work and stuff going on,
Oh,
and I
that's
got like to
different.
keep up with stuff.
Right.
And
That's different,
so I
yeah.
get one. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to
You
get
didn't
sucked
regret
into
it.
it.
You didn't regret it, I'm guessing.
I have mixed feelings, man. I have mixed feelings. It's like now, one thing I notice is that when I'm on the can, I'm on the toilet now like 3 times longer. Because I'm sitting there staring at my damn phone. I'm like,
Yeah,
that's me. That's me. Maybe
But
that's
that's
just
you,
me.
though. I was gonna say that's you. Like just as far as in that, I'm all for tech. I'm like,
Yeah.
I got the first iPhone. I've had like 10 smartphones. I'm like in it. Like, yeah, I'm really into it. And
You're gonna get the
I
new
think it's
iPhone?
great.
Wow.
I'm a Samsung though. I'm an Android.
That's what I have.
But I might get the new for iPhone anyway.
Yeah. But don't get me wrong, like, this thing is an amazing piece of work. When I sit back and I think about, like, how much you
Beautiful,
have
yeah.
sitting here in the
Sure,
palm of your
sure, I
hand,
agree
it's
with that.
insane. It's like, you don't need a computer. I mean, you can live your entire life getting everything you need done off of a phone.
And
You
add
can
the
type
internet
it,
to
It's
that.
getting more and more
Yeah,
so.
You got
It's getting more and more
essentially
so.
the history of the entire world.
Yes.
Like, right there.
Right there.
Yeah.
It's,
Dude, that's another thing, too. At night, I have an iPad, too, now. So, like... So like at night, I found myself literally to like 3:30 a.m. Just like going through news articles, scanning. And social media is the worst, man. Get on social media and start scanning through Facebook and stuff. Before you know, you're like, I'm not even looking at anything. I'm literally just swiping down.
Right.
I was like, I'm not even like digesting this stuff, and I'm like, I gotta turn this up. So I have to I have to put my phone and stuff like away from me before I go to sleep, so I don't
Like,
pick it up. It's addictive.
Yesterday, I got a message from Chase. Had a Chase thing, saying, "Well, your thing is being suspicious something. You got suspicious activity. You need to sign in." And I immediately called Chase, and they said, "It's a phony." Yeah.
Fishing.
Fishing.
And I
For
had a Chase symbol,
yeah.
an email.
Yeah.
My name had it.
They're
It
good.
looked official from Chase, and I looked at where it came from. It didn't say Chase.com. It said some weird name or something, and that's why. I sent it back to Chase.
There's these guys who fish these scammers who create these fake websites and try to get you to call in and scam you for money and
Really?
stuff.
Try to get
Yeah,
information.
and there's a whole series of these dudes on YouTube where they'll go ahead and call these random numbers from these
Well,
pop-ups
yeah, that's-
and
yeah.
stuff.
And try to find out who they are.
Yeah, so
Wow.
they'll go ahead and one of them was like for Bank of America, but it's obviously some dude in India who
Right,
was
or
nothing to do with
Nigeria.
the Bank of
Nigeria
America.
and India.
He's like, yeah, let me log on to your computer and let me go ahead and just run this program on your computer.
Yeah, they're pretty
You
good.
think it was incredible.
That's what I'm worried about with internet, like hacking. I mean,
Yeah.
we've all given up
It's out
our
of control.
privacy.
Yeah,
It's
I mean-
done. I mean, that's why I'm one of those people now that it's almost like I don't even worry about it because I'm like, look, man, I have everything out there. It's done.
I know.
It's done.
I think
Like,
I'm gonna be.
yeah.
I'm definitely gonna be.
That's what I'm
What's
worried
that?
about.
a
Like,
victim of
because there are a lot of smart people out there that
identity
don't use it
theft
for the.
and-
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
Equifax?
Yeah,
yeah, they
it's-
hacked
they
every
hacked
single
it.
Big
account.
one. I mean, if
Man.
they can get hacked,
That's social.
anyone can get hacked.
Right.
Credit history, like, yeah, I think there should be like stiffer penalties for stuff like that, like Yahoo getting hacked.
Yeah.
It's like you
Yeah.
can't make us more reliant or dependent on using you guys because you can't sign up for something unless you use your email or something like that. You can't do that and then get hacked.
Yeah,
It's
like
no.
what happens when you pay
No,
for
no,
months and months of like credit security, right? At like Equifax or something like that. I was listening to this NPR story on the radio, and this guy, he was paying for years for them to monitor his credit. And because somebody like kind of took his stuff in the past and got his ID and did identity theft on him, and then the Equifax thing happened, and they told him like, yeah, man, one of your accounts was one of the ones that got stolen. So he's thinking in his head like, so I've been paying you guys for like X years to watch my stuff, and now it's gone.
Wow.
So like, what was I paying you for?
Yeah.
You know, like, do I get any money back? I mean, do you guys get in trouble? Is this a fraud thing? I mean, how reliable are you? Why am I paying this cash? You know, and those credit agencies have a lot of power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were talking about the history of those credit agencies on NPR too, where it started out with back in the good old days of I think like late 18th century America. People not have money on them all the time, so they'll go to like a bread store or a grocery store, and people lived a lot more locally and communally, and they'll go ahead and ask like the random person who owns the store, hey, I don't have any money right now, but can I have an IOU? I really need this bread and butter, and you know, I'll go ahead and pay you next time I get money. And they'd be like, okay. But you know, eventually that turns into a problem where certain people will always want an IOU, right? They'll come and go, hey, I'll get you next time, but they'll never pay. And so, and they'll go from different towns and different places and do this in order to get free goods. So these like two guys came up with a way to track people. So what they did was they went around and they went to all these stores and they got a list of all the people who owed money to these stores but hasn't paid it, and they start keeping tracks of them. And then they start distributing them to the stores around in the community, saying, hey, these are a list of people who've like been like asking for eggs and milk and stuff all across the region, and they never come back and pay. So if you see them come in, check it against our list, and if their name's on the list, don't give them anything. So then these guys turned that concept into a larger, you know, thing, which eventually turned into the credit agencies.
That's pretty cool.
That's
So,
a cool.
yeah.
That's a cool.
I never heard that story.
Something simple as that. NPR is a really good segment. You should look it up. It's online. But all right, let's go ahead and get into it. Let's see. So yeah, we got 3 things we're talking about. We're gonna talk about this day in history. Dun, 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 right? I hope you guys brought an interesting topic, or you have one in your head, or something that is happened on this day in history. You know what I'm talking about, Kwaku?
I
Or
thought that
not.
was. Never mind. Just
It's all good. It's all good. Because Ed has 4. I have 1, and I have a list of them. And you know what I'm talking about, Lawrence?
Yeah, I tried to look up but didn't find something.
You didn't find anything interesting?
Wow.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool. All right, you nothing to spark my
It's
interest.
just like
this is
some
a
kind of barrel going on there.
Okay. That's fine. That's cool. So we're gonna do that part last, but first we're gonna go ahead and talk about 2 things. We're gonna talking about Harvey. Is it Weinstein?
Weinstein.
Weinstein. I always want to call him Weinstein. And then
How to
very
be a
late, I
Jew.
updated the.
How to be a Jew? It's like Madoff, man. I mean,
Yeah, talk about a piece of work, man.
oh god.
Then we're going to also talk briefly about Niger, the incident that happened with that military guy
Bird dog?
who unfortunately died.
No.
What's his
Oh,
full
okay.
name?
Oh, you're talking about the guy who died in Nigeria. Oh, I thought
Yeah.
you meant the
Yeah, yeah.
bird dog, or the guy who was going to be sentenced to life or something.
Solid.
That was a deserter. That's something.
Yeah,
completely
sorry, I thought that's what you're talking
No,
about.
no, no.
That guy should be killed. Should be shot.
We'll talk about the incident of, this,
That's a good topic.
so these special forces, I believe they were Green Beret.
My group.
Yeah,
Third
they
Special
were-
Forces group. That's what I was in.
They were training African forces in Niger. They were attacked by some type of insurgents or extremists of some sort, and
Congress knew nothing about it.
They died, and so we'll go ahead and get into that. But first, let's talk about our boy Harvey Weinstein.
Funny, I used to watch a
Talk
show
about
called Entourage.
Yeah,
I don't recommend it. It's like the most vacant show you'll ever watch. But anyway, they say Sex in the City for men, and pretty much it's just like nothing happens. But okay, so I used to watch on, and they had a character based on this guy. It was something Weinstein as well. Same thing. And a lot of the stuff that happened on that show is now coming to light. Like the way he would act, they would parody this guy. So the good thing about all this coming out is everyone's having a I feel like this is actually, we're going to look back on this and it's just going to be like a big moment as far as especially women and workplace harassment, because it's one thing after another. You had, the Bill O'Reilly thing, it's like it seems like lots of events coming out. It's going to be helpful. But when I heard that and I was thinking of the Entourage, I was like, so a lot of people knew this was happening and they found a way to rationalize it to themselves, which is pretty scary. Like, I mean, if they know enough to make him a character on a TV show, I mean, it's doing similar stuff.
Yeah, all types of reports are coming out of like people like forever has known this guy's been pretty much using his position as a very famous producer and to lure women, you know, with the carrot of you can be a star, and order to go ahead and have sex with them, and then dump them, or if they maybe perform good enough on that quote unquote massage, then you know maybe he'll give them a role, and you know, in a weird way, some actresses have benefited off of something so terrible like that, right? Where, like, you know, some of the people who came out and have said that, yeah, he approached me, maybe I rejected it, but I still tried to keep him close because I knew this guy was the next leg in my career.
Right.
And so, you know, they played this guy in order to boost their careers. And then who knows how many women are out there who are like, who got a call from this guy like, hey, you know what? I think that you can be a star.
Thousands. Probably.
Yeah. And how about you come over to the DoubleTree and we go ahead and talk about it over some dinner. And they get there and it's like, they're trying to go ahead and give credentials like, I've been doing this, doing that. And he's like, yeah, that's great. How about we go up to my room and talk about this a bit further? And before you know it, this guy who, like, let's be serious, it's not like this guy's been keeping his health up, right? So all I can imagine these young women being approached by this pretty morbidly obese, you know, guy like, hey, I would like you to give me a massage, a naked massage, and, you know, possibly do some other thing, and maybe we can go ahead and talk about a role. It's just disgusting all the way around, man.
But
Well, even a more attractive guy is still.
It's still wrong. Yeah.
terrible.
So I was gonna say, just interesting. They actually have audio that's been captured of him trying to seduce a undercover cop, and that's been released as part of this. And it's not so innocent or forward as you say. He has a very manipulative tone. He just says, "Oh, just come up," and then he goes back and forth. He's saying, "Listen, I've got 2 kids. I swear on my kids, nothing's going to happen." He's like going, "No, I don't want to," you know, playing up the role. And then he gets in this really aggressive, very scary mode. So it's not this innocent seduction like you would think would be happening. No, he's
Even
completely
Bill
separate.
O'Reilly.
That's another guy.
Bill O'Reilly was
He's in the same
thing,
folder, though.
Same thing.
So, no, with Bill O'Reilly, they've got other stuff on him, and he's
But it's basically the same
another
thing,
name.
sexual harassment.
Yeah.
I mean, it's power. It's power
Right.
over a woman. You know,
But listening to that audio, I mean, it's just sickening the way he was manipulating these women.
but it bothers me that that it took women so long to bring this out. I mean, here are women that was sexually harassed for years after the first time. I mean, so I don't understand. Maybe a lot of women, I hate to say this, played on him. Because if you see this, if I'm a woman, I'm getting sex harassed by a boss, I'm going to quit that job.
I don't think it's that
Or I'm
simple.
going to leave or something.
It's not
No,
as simple. Let's use Kesha.
How?
Kesha was a great example. Here was a woman who got sexually harassed and raped, and immediately went
By
out
Dr.
and said
Luke.
this happened,
Yeah.
and was caught in Sony's grass, and could not get another contract, and could not. They would not. After going through a lawsuit, she failed to declare this a breach of contract, and so she was required to stay in contract with Luke. She
That's
did
crazy.
protest by not putting out music for 4 years.
Well, look what happened to her career, right?
Look what's happening. And what I had is
But still, Anita Hill, what she went through with Judge Thomas.
Yeah.
I mean, she stood up, and she stood up for that, and she said, "I'm not going to deal with that. I'm sorry." And she lost her job, but you still have dignity. You still have, I'm sorry. That's a bad excuse. Well, I'm going to not get a job anymore. So you keep on harassing me.
That's a
Keep on
horrible
sexual.
trend for,
No,
that's a horrible trend for
It's
society.
hunger.
Like
Okay,
you're
well,
having to either deal with harassment or go
Not have a
completely
job.
broke,
Yeah.
not have a job, get this whole whistleblower, and on top of that, look at Anita Hill. She got turned into this like pariah, was hated and destroyed. And
No, she didn't get destroyed. She's a professor now. She's a professor or something with Georgetown
Eventually
or
she
something.
recovered.
Yeah, I mean, she recovered, but
You recover from
But she
that.
went through a lot.
went
I know,
through
you go through a lot. It's a lot of dues you got to pay.
even now, look at it. She's a professor at Georgetown, but what will she essentially always be known for?
Yeah.
Right? So I just think it's not good to
definitely
blame,
not good.
let's
I
say,
agree.
the victims in this in any way. Just,
Yeah.
it's, I mean, I just look at it this way. If I'm, 18 or 21, he's a studio, or he was a studio head. He's
Yeah, he was
literally
a big
the
guy.
guy. Like, you're going to be in this movie, this movie. He comes up to you and you have dreams, and, he presents things this way, and, it's I think in cases like Harvey Weinstein, someone with that much power and using it in that way, I mean, I would say it's even cross-sexual harassment to something just way.
No, I
like
think it's
worse.
rape.
Yeah, it's just like,
It's a criminal.
what the hell, dude?
It's a criminal.
Yeah, like when you have that much power, like not if you don't acquiesce to what he wants, not only maybe you're not going to work for him, you literally probably won't work for anyone. Like it's the power dichotomy is that great. It's just. Yeah, he's a piece of shit. Honestly, I mean that's from breaking it down, it's
I mean,
kinda
and one
bad.
thing we gotta know too, like, is Anita Hill and what's her name, Ashley Judd, and these people, they're two different industries. We have like the entertainment industry where your brand is everything, really. Like, your name and your brand and stuff can like make or break you so easily. And I think the reason why you don't see a lot of other people coming out until now is because that brand holds so much capital. It's like if let's say you're a working actor, you're a working actress, and you come out against the guy, Harvey Weinstein, and say that, hey, I've heard such and such been going on, and you don't have like a group of people around you maybe backing you, coming out with you at the same time. There can be that lashback by Harvey and his people, his lawyers, and things like that. So you have this culture of silence that just perpetuates itself because people are so worried about, their career, their names, and occasionally something slips through the cracks like this, and it breaks, and then the dam breaks, and now you have everybody coming out saying, this dude.
So society perpetuates it. I mean, we absolutely push it. I mean, if you come out against somebody, and especially if you do it alone, your entire sexual history is going to be put online.
Yeah.
You're going to have to deal with this stigma of,
And society teaches that women who are not pure are not valuable. So just even if she's raped, it doesn't matter. She's not as valuable. I
Right.
mean, that's like old tradition, but there's still that tradition there,
Yep.
And the time, and you've already suffered. It's like even more suffering going through court and all that.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Now, see, I agree with you. I would quit. I don't care if I have to go live.
So,
If I go work at McDonald's, I would just quit. It's a shame, but I would. But I probably wouldn't go to court and everything because
they
who would
demonize
wanna-
you. You
Yeah.
turn your history against you.
Who would
Lawyers
wanna
are
do
known
that?
for that.
And not everybody's been through the same experiences to have the same strong moral convictions that maybe you have, So like some people, maybe
Right.
they've been through abuse, growing up and stuff, and they
Not as
decide like,
strong.
what, I'm just, I
Well,
don't,
they're young, and
they're
they're
young
young
and
people,
naive, and they just kind of roll with it and
That's
try to go ahead and move on. One thing I will say though is that something needs to stop with these settlements, right?
That's what we were talking about.
Constantly
O'Reilly.
over and
Like
over,
Bill O'Reilly.
like our justice system just allowing people to just shell out this money
Millions
and
of
to keep
dollars.
stuff like this silent because it perpetuates
So
it
did
and it
you
makes
hear
it
what happened
Exactly.
with the secretary
Exactly.
today?
I totally agree with that.
Yeah,
Harvey.
Harvey Weinstein today.
He raped
His
someone.
secretary broke her non-disclosure agreement because she was actually part of a settlement, and officially came out with all of his news and all that stuff and dropped it. She said as part of the settlement, he was required to go to counseling for this for 3 years. That was the only way she would settle. She says that he was first in And there's a big question right now, like, will his law just come down on it? Because they do this, in order to get a settlement, you have to sign a non-disclosure agreement.
Exactly.
And this is 19 years later in her case, and she's still under this. So there's a question of whether Weinstein's legal team is going to come after her.
They can,
But she's officially broken her NDA and is encouraging all the rest of the women to do the same.
I agree.
That's what happened to Bill O'Reilly.
It should.
Exactly.
Yeah.
With Bill O'Reilly. Same with Bernard Battle. Award these guys.
But look at Bill O'Reilly. He paid out how much? $13
Billions.
million to one?
32 million.
I'm talking about
32
for
million.
Wait.
For one.
I'm talking about for one case.
32
What
million.
case?
32
What
million.
case?
It was 32
million.
for
One.
and Roger Ailes. I just
Roger-
read
yeah.
that he came out with he paid $20 million
20 million.
to one person.
Yeah.
What were you doing? You know, it's like, what is going on?
Okay,
That's
well,
some
I'm
human
going to play
centipede.
guy's role or whatever. What
you
if
go.
the woman doesn't have a lot of evidence? He doesn't want his reputation, because even if he's in court for those type of charges, he doesn't want his reputation going downhill. He may be innocent until proven guilty.
So in the case, because I've heard Bill O'Reilly be interviewed
So
on
that's
this
why they
subject,
settle.
and
He blames
talk
God
about
now.
the person. No, so the problem was that in a weird sense of our society, we're kind of okay with the fact that he was molesting women or whatnot. I mean, there's a part of society that turns its back on that, but especially his target audience, the news that he didn't want to get out was that he was sending that lawyer gay porn
Yep.
in order to
something.
you know, get her aroused or to cause like that tension and whatnot. So of course a Fox News, one of the most conservative Fox News people, sending out gay porn, it's worth $32 million, especially if you're their number one show. And mind you, this guy's still on the air.
Yeah.
Like, number one guy is looking up and sending women gay porn. That's something you don't want to get out there.
What's
Yeah,
what
especially
you're
for
worried
the
about?
type of people you talk to on the on the
What-
airwaves, right?
I don't know if you read-
Bill O'Reilly's crowd.
I don't know if you read recently, but what's more revolting is what Bill O'Reilly did to a commentator on Fox that he had about his son
Oh yeah.
was doing
yeah.
sexual acts, and he committed suicide. He killed himself,
Wow.
and they don't know because this guy was fired. He was a commentator for Fox.
Eric Bowling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's because Bill O'Reilly's mentioned his. Yeah.
He was pretty much doing what Bill O'Reilly was doing,
Okay.
and he got fired. His son killed himself, and Bill O'Reilly brought it up that he said
remember hearing
sexual
this.
allegations kill kids or something.
I mean,
Stupid
that's
thing. Yeah, like
it's
what?
like what Trump did.
Your conduct kills kids, man.
Yeah,
like,
but-
come
No,
on,
that has nothing.
You know?
No scruples.
But,
Guy is
let me
more
just add,
voting-
like, we spoke about the women in all this.
Yeah.
What about the men? Like, even like Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, a lot of these guys have come out like, yeah, I kind of knew. Like,
Yeah, that's
and
it,
I
that's
didn't
it.
say anything.
Yeah.
So
Quentin
that's,
Tarantino, right?
That's even more
I
so.
honestly would say that's even worse.
I think
Because
it is.
he's not doing it to you, so you essentially have at least some kind of more power than his victims, and you don't do anything. They like
Ben
all
Affleck
these
and all
things-
those
yeah.
guys.
It's not
Well,
their
most-
business. They just hear rumors and they just.
Well, I
You
think
know?
still part of it is that these people are worried about their careers and they're
Yeah.
worried about their name. I mean, I don't think that those people, I don't think like Ben Affleck and Matt Damon are immune to the reach of Harvey Weinstein. You know, I mean,
No,
he made
no,
their
he made them.
careers.
He made
Yeah,
Devil Hunter.
yeah, yeah. He
That
made-
was his.
yeah.
He made them. So, but still, that's not good. And I just think about all the people that like led these little or young women to his room, knowing exactly what was going to happen.
Yeah,
But
you know
what
there
I'm saying?
has to be.
You know,
someone
Yeah,
like,
that's
how
what's
was it-
crazy
You know what's
too,
happening.
right?
You're
that
facilitating that.
really, really know.
Exactly.
And Hollywood is I think this is just the tip
sure,
of the
yeah.
iceberg. I actually think, from what I've heard, and I know some people in the industry, Hollywood is just pretty much like the most messed up place of
Yeah,
like child
rampant with
molesters
child
and
molestation.
Just like the most messed up people. Like
Corey
so-
Feldman story, right?
Yeah, remember he would say that.
Yeah.
And
This just goes
his
back
career
many
ended
years.
actually because of that. Because since the 90s, he was like, people rape me a lot, producers. And his
Wow.
career ended because of that.
Yeah.
Roseanne, actually, her career took a hit because she said something about this in the 90s as well. And look what's coming out now.
It's just not
I
a
mean,
good thing.
that's
to,
going back to the 1920s. I mean, it's been going on,
Yeah.
like
For a long- they said
couchers,
it's
producers'
cleaned up.
couch. That was the old cliche. Watch out for the director's couch or the producer's
Oh, that's still around,
couch.
man. I mean,
That's
that's
what I'm
still
saying.
around.
Well, I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
yeah.
It's been,
Casting
that's been going on
couch.
for since 1920s and 30s.
Wow.
Yeah, I read all of I can't pronounce her last name, but Lupita
Nyong'o.
Nyong'o's story. I don't know if you guys read that, and because when she was young, in her early 20s or so, she was breaking into the acting scene in Europe, and she met Harvey Weinstein. And Harvey Weinstein invited her to hotels on multiple occasions. And she has a very detailed story about what, pretty much the same thing we've been hearing, this guy's MO. You know, inviting her to like a hotel and being like, hey, you know, how about we go up to my, room and, you give me a massage. And, of course, she didn't engage. But one part of her story, he invited her to his house. Like, she was in New York at some point. And so she shows up to his house, and the excuse that Harvey gives is that I want you to go ahead and come to my in-home theater and watch some type of opening release of a movie. And so his kids are there. He lines them up to watch the movie, and they're all about to sit down and watch this movie. And then he pulls her to the side, Lupita, and says, hey, how about we go upstairs? I want to go ahead and show you something. So it was so in her eyes, the whole thing was a setup to distract his kids in order to get her alone in order to, have sex with her. That's so slimy and grimy, man. That's ridiculous.
I don't think there's something wrong in there. Like
this guy obviously has mental problems.
Yeah, like he was saying, Bill O'Reilly defends. He says I'm completely innocent, and he gets mad. He feels like he's being accused of something he never did.
Maybe he believes
he's acting like the victim.
That.
He believes that and he brought it up in that interview that he later had to apologize for. It was talked about where he's like, what are you doing to my kids? It is not your job to tell this. This is bullshit. Any leaks out there, I mean, leaks are just designed to harm somebody.
Yeah.
This is clearly put out. So he was playing the victim, even though he would acknowledge that he's done all this stuff.
Maybe it's
really
like
weird.
split personality.
It might be. He's lied to himself. And he also knows, I mean, frankly, I won't say a lot, at least a good portion of his hardcore supporters, no matter what happens, that he's the guy.
They'll believe him.
Yeah, they'll believe him, no matter what. Like,
just the liberal media.
The woman wanted
liberal media out there to
It's
get
the woman's fault. It's the woman's fault. The woman,
he knows that.
Hired actors.
Yeah.
Who will always believe him.
Man.
The woman is just, wondering.
What I think part of it, too, is like, think about the news industry. Think about the industry you're working in. You go on TV to play a character. Bill O'Reilly's going on TV to play a character, really.
Sure.
I mean, that is not him 24/7. He's not walking around acting like that. So this guy has to have an amazing ability to compartmentalize, his life. Like he has a whole section of his life dedicated to being on the news and to pretending to be some ultra-conservative right-wing dude. And he probably has a whole nother Bill O'Reilly where he's on the phone, masturbating and talking to women and stuff. Because that was a report. He was like, masturbating on the phone, And then there's family Bill O'Reilly where, he goes and he cares about his kids and stuff. And, which... you get a different experience in whichever one you go ahead and whichever environment you're in, you meet. It's nuts.
Well, and that settlement thing you were, we still to this day we don't really know. Like I was thinking of Michael Jackson. Like we would hear all those stories about kids. And
what do y'all think about that?
We don't
He's
know.
guilty.
It's
what I think.
The settlement was done.
And I love Mike. Okay, I just love that guy. Even now, this is how messed up it is. I still listen to his music.
Right.
And I'm like 99.9% sure he was very, very guilty of a lot of very, very bad things.
Because they found like a bottle
they found like child porn and all this, and I just like, dude.
Well, I've read those reports, and those are all still allegations, right?
Yeah, they don't
but trust me, I'm on your side.
Yeah,
and
you don't know what's true.
but what they found was like
really...
kids' faces pasted on naked body, like naked adults. That's what they found in his estate. So, but these are still all unproven allegations.
Yeah, we don't know.
I don't want Michael Jackson's powerful estate.
The big question is, should non-disclosure agreements not come with a time period, or should as part of a settlement, non-disclosure agreements be allowed on that extreme? Like you're never allowed to comment on the subject again, or else you're open for legal litigation.
It's like Michael Jackson, right? Random. He also paid a ton of money.
Oh,
Yeah,
Oh, sure.
that's what I'm saying.
Like I wouldn't
yeah.
say it's like in like the dozens of kids, but anyway.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like this may be good in theory, but it's called a settlement for a
Yeah,
reason, right?
I-
So it's whatever each side settles on.
But
Yeah.
even,
So I don't know if legally,
You can go back and
yeah,
change
because it's
it.
really something personal.
Double
right?
jeopardy.
Let's say, if I break your laptop or something, we make an agreement. I don't know if it's necessarily good for the government or the law to step into an agreement between two parties necessarily.
But I mean, so in workforce, non-disclosure agreements have never really held up. Like,
Okay, see, I didn't know
they
that.
put up non-disclosure agreements, but I mean, in order so that people couldn't block me from programming, 'cause, I mean, if I was to sign an NDA, I mean, they could say like anybody I programmed for was a competition, and therefore I couldn't go there. And there are certain limitations.
Yeah.
And it's going to be real interesting. I mean, Weinstein may just decide not to bother suing his ex-secretary or whatnot for this. If not, we may get an actually good court case that will determine whether these NDAs hold up in court, whether
That's
there's
true.
a time limit, whether a lack of, going through with the, counseling and the promises to not do anything is grounds for them to break their NDA and such.
but
Well, good point.
yeah, but settlements doesn't mean the person's guilty.
It doesn't.
No.
So
what
that's
it-
people, because settlements can say, look, I don't want this to do, because even though I'm innocent, it's going to ruin my career.
Exactly.
So I'm going to pay this
Or just
person
take up
out.
too much time. To
So a lot of
Exactly.
people
Much
think
time, yeah.
settlements don't mean you're guilty.
Sure,
know.
settlements don't mean you're guilty. That is true. I don't know how to go ahead and
So that's
square
That's
this
true.
peg.
In Bill O'Reilly's defense on just that specific issue, he was going through a custody battle with his ex-wife, and his excuse, or at least that they gave, was that it would just look really bad at that time if it came out right then. So in that, you could,
excuse me.
I guess, give it that at least.
Yeah, I still feel like these settlements breed this mentality.
Oh,
though.
sure.
It's like it makes it worse. It's like
It
what's
is,
the
it's
I mean, what's the payoff here? Is that all right? Some people's lives are
Ruined.
not ruined because the stuff doesn't get put out into the public.
Right.
Some people get a lot of money, but on the other side of it, you get people like Harvey Weinstein, who has enough money to pay off any settlement, right?
Or
And-
Kobe
and
Bryant.
obviously is
Or Kobe Bryant.
or Kobe Bryant, and obviously is used to just shelling out the money.
I mean,
just like
that
he had,
was
like,
that.
Didn't he have like a lawyer team that put in their like contract clauses, like every time we have to go ahead and do this for you, dude, you have to go ahead and give us like X more amount of money or something
Really?
for coverage. Yeah, look that
Wow.
up. Look that up
They
later.
knew it was going to
Yeah.
happen again.
Wow.
Yeah,
in
it's,
other
it's
words.
it's insane. Like there's people out there like this. They have just so much money where it's like
Right.
they
Sure.
just don't care. They just do not care. And the only way it stops is when you destroy their career.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's the only way they stop. Is when
Exactly.
like it is you have to shut them down. So yeah, I mean, I think that'll be definitely an interesting court case. I don't
If
know.
he sues, I don't know. I don't think he will. That would just be such bad PR.
Yeah,
like,
talk about
Well,
that.
talk about the PR though. A lot of people say that the reason that Weinstein and some of these other cases are coming forward and moving forward is he hasn't actually made a decent movie in the last
Right.
few years. Like he was huge in the 90s and the turn of the century. Lately, he's lost a lot of his power,
Right.
so lacking those big financial pockets,
Exactly.
lacking that power that he can put out there, suddenly people can come forward. So it's not like they unseated somebody, because, I mean, look at Donald Trump. I mean, he has plenty of settlements. He has plenty of people that, if people would listen to them, could destroy him, but they can't, because he's got a very good team and will absolutely destroy the person. He's got all these settlements. He still has the money, and he has his team.
That
at
is
his
such a
back.
damn shame, man. It's like that's another thing too, is that we have the president of the United States who's maybe
He's part of this culture.
who's part definitely of this
Of the
culture.
culture.
And
Yeah.
kind of grew up probably grew up around the same.
Yeah.
oh,
this
definitely,
is-
yeah,
Yeah, so-
definitely. He's a bit older than Weinstein, I believe,
So
right?
it's just
Yeah.
that
10 years.
the culture at the time is just
Yeah.
perpetuates.
Yeah, so I mean, we have a guy who president of the United States who, they have audio recordings of him, engaging in this type of talk and culture,
sure.
and pretty much condoning sexual harassment.
Right.
And it's like, I mean, how do you fight back on this when you have a person who's elected in office, regardless of that? Just.
So the fascinating part is that a lot of what I feel is that him being in office shows that we can't talk about this like it's a sign of the times or it's in the past.
No.
Enough people voted for it to indicate that people are willing to bypass this.
They
So
overlook it.
they like this kind of, maybe even Putin puts out all those videos of him like wrestling and doing these very manly things, and it's considered the best public relationships he has. Our society still looks up to this manly man, the man that can have any woman or multiple women.
But he did it with the popular vote. He won the electoral college. He still
he won
lost
enough
by
votes.
3 million
Let's not go
votes.
down that.
Let's
Let's not go down that black
No,
hole.
I'm just saying
David's
what he said.
it
If he
matters
wasn't,
that people-
I don't
If he
think
won
he's
by-
an elected president. No,
If
I'm
he
just-
was not elected and he got 30% of the vote, that'd still be a problem because I'd still say one
No, I'm
in
just
three.
saying.
Sure,
No, I'm just saying the people who, he has a base of people. That's it.
But that's a big
Well,
base.
people-
Like,
Uh,
So
Yeah,
what was
that's
the point
it.
that you were getting to? Because I think you
that-
got something interesting.
It's that culture
It's the
of-
fact that the culture's still here. We
Yeah.
can't-
Exactly,
Our
exactly.
entire conversation, we've been talking about it like it's in the past. It's a sign of the
Oh, no,
time.
no.
It's a man of
No,
power.
It's a sign
It's
of our
power.
current time.
No.
Power equals
all
money.
power.
And
Power and money.
Weinstein's only going down because he hasn't created a good movie recently.
So he's no longer.
He was
used
part
for-
of Memorex. Is that was his
Miramax.
company?
No, Merrimack.
Merrimack. Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't hear that anymore.
Yeah, you're right. I
that's
mean, this
not-
is very much the United States of America. This type of culture, this mentality, this bravado and machoism, and that is weird. How it's like there's a lot of people out there saying, "Hey, man, like I thought we got over this, all this racism and sexism
Right,
and stuff. I thought this was done with. We solved all these problems." But it's still here.
no,
And it's
still
like,
here.
no. I mean, where does that mentality come from? Where do you think like that like sudden
think-
wake up mentality is?
Well, I'd say stuff like this definitely helps.
Yeah.
This is one of the few things I'll give like as well social media credit for as well, driving things like this, like that whole Me Too campaign. For instance, I think stuff like this, it's gonna ultimately be helpful, very helpful. But I don't think we're gonna be past this for quite some time. I mean, it's been so entrenched in our society for how many thousands
It's
of
human
years?
nature.
We're not just
To
gonna
be
get
honest with you,
over
it's
it
power.
like that.
You got all this money and power. You figure you can do anything.
So I actually
Else?
read a interesting article on how social media is actually making it worse for women, because it's not causing these people in power to back down because they still
Exactly.
believe they have the power and stuff, but it's causing a lot of women to live a life in a great deal more fear. And a lot of the rise. This is written by a feminist who
So,
said,
like, the trolls?
because of our current, the level at which we push these stories and stuff like that,
I
that's
feel the same way.
pushing the amount of anxiety that women are feeling in our culture right now. And maybe the social media is not doing a good job.
I'm sure there's
Well,
a
maybe
school.
I agree with that.
short-term.
What, let me just explain. I'm trying to grasp that. So you mean like the social media always talking about it is making it worse for maybe victims of this?
For women who not victims, women in general are becoming very fearful of men to the level where it's causing them mental disorders like extreme anxiety and all that stuff.
Because it causes you to generalize.
Because
it
of
causes
the
you
social
to,
media,
Yeah,
yes.
it causes you to broad stroke people. You start seeing this stuff over and over on social media that are kind of like generalizations of what is going on in the world, and it's really going on. But when you see it constantly talked about in such a broad manner, I can imagine somebody being like, "Man, this is everywhere, and I gotta I gotta protect myself. I gotta really watch out. I gotta really filter my circle and be careful who I talk to, how I'm talking to them." So I can imagine, definitely
well-
that would cause some type of
Sure. Or my
anxiety.
body image,
Especially-
how I'm presenting myself.
Oh yeah.
If you're on social media a lot, like
Sure.
I have younger siblings, and literally they get their news from Twitter. They get like
See, that's
this.
kind of-
It's almost like they feel like nothing else exists. Like they're still, for instance, shocked that like Donald Trump won. For instance, I'm just like, yeah, because you're on Twitter. Like, it's a lot more liberal. It's a
Sure.
lot younger. So it's just like they have such a skewed perception of everything. So I can see that. I mean, that makes sense.
It also can lure women into that. some women say, well, that's a good idea. I want to get some rich person to sexual abuse. I mean, you can have that adverse, like a woman will say,
That's
yeah,
what
that's a
I
good
was
way to
gonna
make
say.
money.
Yeah.
Why don't I get involved with a producer or something, have a sexual encounter with him, and then sue him?
But what do you say are the percentages of
Yeah, I
I
mean,
don't know.
no, it's very low, but I'm
I-
sure it can lure women into that
But
sort of
it has to happen.
depravity.
I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I just, again, I would think that problem is so small compared to
Oh,
the
yeah.
actual abuse.
But
It's
I'm saying-
something that. I mean,
But it can lure a person, like you
Oh,
said.
I'm
but
sure. I mean, I
yeah.
don't disagree with that.
Because
Yeah,
we were
yeah.
talking about the Assange case.
Assange, yeah.
Yeah, I'm
How-
forgot about that.
Julian
How
Yeah.
it's like a woman had sex with him, she was intoxicated, but it's like, was she really a spy? Planted?
Yeah.
And
You
then, because
know?
the key is in Sweden, there's no such thing as consent when you're intoxicated with
I was
the
just
first
gonna say that.
encounter.
It's
So,
about
like-
It's the same in
Assange.
England
It's about
as well, by the
Assange.
way. If you
Yeah.
have
Yeah,
sex with a woman that's very drunk, same in England, like that's not wise. Like, just legally.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
Well, and actually,
So
brings me
y'all
to-
take it more serious.
It's very serious. Thing.
Very
We
serious.
don't-
Very
we don't-
serious.
I
Very
don't think we
serious thing.
take that
Very
seriously in the
serious.
U.S. Because in college, you just drink, you do whatever.
Well, yeah, there's a
That's
whole
what I was-
culture perpetuated here of like that's how I guess attraction and hooking up and stuff happens. You see that
Right.
in movies everywhere.
I know.
You
So
see
we
it in,
don't
yeah.
understand
But it's
it.
changing. I think
Yeah,
so.
it is. The
Things
message
like-
is getting out.
Like all these
to-
fraternity things and
Yeah.
all these, as far as stories come about how college is mishandled and handled sexually, that's slowly changed. Even I would say like my mindset, like when I was in college, you get drunk with a girl and you hook up, right? Whatever.
Right.
Now, I don't know. I have a
So
completely
the
different feeling
fascinating
about
thing
Yeah.
is
It's just
it's
kinda
actually
weird, like,
happening more because there's such a thing as a empowering hookup culture where women feel like they should act with men, and therefore to show everybody around them they drink, even if they're not completely drunk, they act completely drunk just because that's part of hookup culture.
Well,
That's
how
the
often
But
does
if,
that
they're,
happen?
but if they're choosing to do that, isn't that
It's
completely
actually apparently in college. This is the major way that it's a whole hookup society in white male and female society. It's
That is
People
weird.
pretending to be drunk.
That is super
Kind of as
weird.
an excuse to hook up, and then you're like, oh,
Yeah,
I had
yeah.
no
I mean,
idea.
I guess I can see it from a like I want to fit in type of deal. Like I guess
Or
I'm
like you want to make a move, but you're too afraid.
afraid. I
Just
mean,
Well,
like
you
that-
want the biggest thing that they say it's
It
about
gives
is
you
it's
courage.
bragging rights. It's
Oh.
like
It's like
I
that-
want to.
That private college, that kid, that guy who was at private college, that he was like 16 or 17. It was like, and
Yes.
it was a part of a ritual that he
Yes.
has to get a lot of virgins or something. You know what I'm
I
talking
never
about?
heard
That,
that
I'm talking about? No,
heard
how
that
many
one.
girls he could
So is
score.
this ISIS?
Oh.
And he was like
Virgins,
18 years
like-
old because he had a lot of money. He could get out of it. He
So
got
the
out of it.
affluenza kid? No, he like ran over some people.
Yeah,
You're
he
talking about
killed-
that
It was
kid
like
that,
17-year-old kid. It was like
and the
17.
kid who raped that one behind like a dumpster outside.
No, that's
No,
not.
no, 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 no.
That's
This
a
was a guy.
swimmer.
It was a
That was
ritual
a famous
that
the Brock, whatever his
Yeah.
name
to
is.
join
Yeah,
a
yeah.
fraternity, he had to score with a lot of girls,
Okay.
and they had it, and all these girls signed up. He had all these, and he got caught because one girl didn't want to do it.
I don't know. I'm not
I
aware of
can't-
that.
It was
I
a
didn't
private
know that.
college. It was a
Gotta look that
private
one up.
college.
But I will
See,
say
here's my
this
thing
though.
with
It's-
that. Just
Go-
real
go
quick.
for it.
If the girls are signing up to do that, okay.
Yeah, more power.
Yeah,
to
good
them.
for you. Like, I have no problem with that. I wouldn't want my daughter doing that,
Yeah.
but it's your choice. I mean, as long as it's your choice,
Yeah.
that's like whatever. Like,
Yeah.
I will say that in today's culture, I mean, look at I'm pretty deep into like music, hip hop, and hip hop is the most dominant genre of music. It surpassed rock now, and it's the force to be reckoned with. So it like in music and these celebrities and music videos and stuff
Right.
really kind of frames our culture, at least how our culture is projected to young people, to like teenagers and stuff like that. And you look at a lot of these music videos and stuff, and you do
Very
see that
sexual.
there's this perpetuation of getting fucked up on Molly, Percocets,
Percocet,
Xanax, and hanging out, and letting whatever happen. And this is not just like a 1 or 2 video thing. I'm talking
Right.
about if you go ahead and like go through YouTube and look at what's the current music trends, and you go ahead and watch any hip hop video, I want to say like 80% of them are
reference.
are pretty much that way to have fun is you go ahead and get a bowl of pills and you eat these pills, then you drink, get some lean, and then you you hang out and whatever happens happens. There's actually a lot of references in these songs that are like, I got her fucked up off the Molly, da 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 da, and stuff like that.
Future.
Could be like
Yeah, that's
date
the
rape.
right.
If you
Yeah.
Which were so now. This is not to say that I want to completely harken back to the days of where there's these crotchety old people like it's the hip hop music is destroying our kids and stuff. I do believe that for the most part, most people are intelligent enough to discern the fantasy from reality. But at the same time, there's got to be something said for that perpetually being within our culture.
I don't know. Well, first thing is, I don't know. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, it's a problem that how we promote these kind of ideal images, even though you can discern fantasy versus reality, but there is that in our subconscious mind about what's the greatest thing in life, like going party, having women, or for guys having women around them, that kind of stuff,
Right.
which is not very healthy. And it goes back to also the idealization of masculinity is that to be that cool guy who does not flinch in danger or some kind of, which is totally completely off base. Like as guys, we know that we're still human. We still have our emotions. We still at times feel vulnerable. We cannot always be that Superman all the time.
What's even worse is perpetrating overseas.
Say that again.
It's perpetrating overseas.
Oh, perpetrating overseas.
Like you go to Southeast Asia. I mean, you got hip hop. So you see is hip hop.
But is
I don't know about Europe, but it's
hip hop is
everywhere.
worldwide.
exploding.
But was rock any better in
No,
that sense? That's what I'm thinking. Like,
rock's always been
It's the
the
same.
original perpetuator.
Yeah.
And even these days,
I'm not-
Katy Perry is talking about last Friday night we got date raped, and this Friday night we're going to do it again.
And,
Yeah.
and that's
literally-
very true. I'm not saying
just
that
think-
hip hop music is like is where this all came from. You're right.
no,
Rock
I just say it's
music,
just
all that.
It's a continuation
It's a
of that.
Yeah, it's a continuation of that type of that cultural element.
Yeah, of us essentially, in some ways, holding a mirror up to ourselves as a society. It's so I don't
Is
know.
that
if
holding a
it's-
mirror up to ourselves?
As far as a lot of the themes like
Prison,
hyper masculinity and things like that, I mean,
Sure.
it was still present in rock as far as the way maybe Elvis would dance and certain just
Or Chuck
funny,
Berry.
funny. Chuck Berry,
Like
Axl
Dig a Ling.
Rose,
You ever
like,
hear the
it's
song Dig a
Mick
Ling?
Jagger, like, it's,
So
You ever,
what is that?
you ever hear the
that's
song
the
called
question
Dig a
of-
Ling?
Yeah, I heard that.
I
song
mean,
called-
it's obvious what he was
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
there's a lots of classic blues
Oh, my
songs
Dig a
out
Ling,
there
you
that
can-
talk about some scandalous things, and but I mean, if that's putting a mirror up to ourselves, then like all of this, classic '80s, hair band,
Definitely a mirror.
party music, getting drunk and finding a chick and hooking up, all the way to today's hip hop, where maybe you're popping pills and you're finding a chick and trying to hook up and stuff like that. Then if that's a reflection of us and our culture, then I mean I guess that settles it, right? I'm getting to, it's like
No, you,
What was it?
what
This
you
part
do,
of-
you turn on to jazz.
Was it tech bubble
Or
like
classical
the 80s,
music.
90?
Tech bubble ended in 2000. So,
2000.
yeah, it's
What happened in, I want to say the late 80s? Was there a small recession of some sort? Or like the early 90s or
There's like
something?
a oil, is it oil crisis?
The oil crisis.
Something
That
like
was in
that.
the
Yeah.
70s.
certainly had
The oil
no
crisis was,
recessions
No,
whatsoever.
and I'm
That
still
was the
saying,
Reagan
and it's
era.
apparent
Yeah.
in the music. Everything was flashier. It was bigger hair.
Same with the 20s.
Bigger guitar solos.
Okay.
Like, that was just a reflection of the society at times. What happens when the 90s got a little bit leaner, then all of a sudden we transitioned to like grunge, Nirvana, like
So
tore
do-
up clothes and...
Do you feel like there's something that we appreciate in this hyper masculinity within our culture then? I mean, if it's something that this has been going on for a long time, I mean, in different forms, I assume you can track it back even before modern pop culture, right? Do you think like this is like some element then that that men and women look for.
Yeah. I think I hear women saying, "Yeah, I want a man who can be strong."
Who's going to be assertive
But how
and strong,
much is
man.
the culture feeding itself, the image of...
Is it the culture or is it just us? We're animals.
That's what I was getting to. It's
at
quite
the end of the
natural.
day, we always want to be the most mateable
Yes.
person, and if you can prove yourself the
Yep.
most mateable, you want to have as many mates as possible so that your cells will continue on.
Exactly.
I'm with you. It's part just natural. I mean, it goes back to.
So
yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. So I want to pose another question. So then, if we extrapolate that all the way to today, where we have our Bill O'Reillys and our Harvey Weinsteins and stuff like that, then it's like, well, are these individuals in some way victims of our culture, or playing out biology in some way?
Angie once brought up that most of these people, if you end up looking into their past, you often find that they were victims themselves and learn this is the way that you talk power to people. So in that
Exactly.
regard, there is that. Now, it doesn't excuse their pieces. There are,
Of course.
you can't excuse it or just write it off or say this is okay, but it absolutely. I mean, society's taught them that because of their power, they're so looked up to, they should be able to do it. What's up? Trump's speech was, whenever you have all this money, women don't care, they'll do whatever you need, you can even just grab them by the pussy. Those
Right.
were his words.
Right.
So
Or-
they believe
Yeah,
this
yeah.
sincerely, and they believe that this is their right and entitlement as a power player to society.
Yeah.
Or whatever they misunderstood about being a person. Like, or was what it means to be just a person, be a man. Maybe there were, as I say, condition like being a man is about being competitive, being feisty, being unrelenting. But
But see, and I don't agree with those ideals.
it just may be a different.
Have you heard
mindset.
like women before throughout your life do agree with those like ideals?
Like that they're looking for those
Yeah.
qualities. Yeah, I've heard that they're looking for that in men, but like I've just always struggled with what genders are supposed to be like, because I know, like, I don't know, I can be competitive. I usually can be all those traits that people talk about when it's men, and we've just always questioned, like, can women be leaders? Can they be CEOs? And for me, all those things just seem kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
But for the fact that you say that, I mean, let's take us. You've told me before I'm required to be your protector and stuff like that, and I need to be there, and there are certain duties that, like trash and stuff like that you don't want to perform, but because you see me as a protector and all that, and you want somebody that's able to do that, you do require certain gender-specific tasks for males.
I don't think it's because of your gender. I think it's just I don't want to do that. So you can do
No,
that.
wait a minute. So no, that is a real thing though, because I've been in a couple relationships in the past where a woman's always like, it's your job to take out the trash. What is it with the trash thing?
Because it's heavier. That's
that
my
just-
thing.
is that
and
just
he
so
has
that-
more muscles, so
That is,
I was gonna
this-
say,
yeah.
we just don't want to do it.
Okay.
it's heavy. It's
I think
heavy.
it's your
Fair
past
enough.
history.
I've just heard
think
that.
And I don't
It's
want
how
to.
you grew up. It's what your parents did.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a
And
big
then
part
if
of
it
it.
was,
Yeah.
if you grew up with a parent, household where the man
Yeah.
took care of the baby and the woman was working, then you think, hey, that's what I'm supposed to.
But
It's
see,
what
I-
it reflects
I
on
don't
your
know.
parents,
See, I don't
think,
really
and your
think-
grandparents.
I don't fall for the things that women are supposed to do.
Yeah.
But I will say I don't want to get my shoes dirty, and the trash is heavier. And
That's
my
cool.
shoes are generally
pretty logical.
nicer than his, so I don't really see it as like I'm a woman
Yeah.
per se.
But from my personal perspective, I do feel like women feel like they do want the right to do the parts of things of men that they want, be able to lead, be able to do all these things.
What makes
But
sense.
but they
because
don't. But
They use. I mean, it's intelligence you're using. And
whenever it comes to, for example, if we have to confront somebody, I'm always put on the forefront
It-
on that.
I think that depends on every person. So I think some women are okay with confrontation. They're okay standing up for whatever.
But we're still talking about averages here, I mean, do you think on average, like, out of the women you've talked to and came across throughout your life, do you feel that these women expect men to be assertive in generally like dominant and traditional ways, traditional gender role ways?
Not amongst my friends because of my age. I think older people definitely have different expectations of men, and I think women nowadays, if you talk to them, a lot of them are like, my husband's cooking dinner, or he does most of the housework. So I don't find it's like one way or the other amongst my age.
So I agree that women want men to take their part and they want the right to do stuff, but let's look at our friends. We've got, single friends and stuff like that. They've made it clear that the man has to, generally speaking, make at least as much of them, and even if they don't, they are. We actually just had a discussion with a friend because she felt like he was undateable because she was asked to pick up half the bill. So we are actually having these very gender.
But that's a whole nother. We don't want to.
But that's gender stereotype.
Yeah,
that is gender stereotype.
I think these stereotypes kind of feed into some of these. I think that these stereotypes feed into how men treat women, how women treat men, and in some instances can lead to certain types of men mixed with a combination of, mental issues they got going on, leading to sexual harassment and worse. I think that there is, there's maybe not a direct correlation. Maybe there is, but I think these are all interconnected is what I'm getting to.
I think there is a connection. We were talking about the connection between things that masculinity is looked up to and the end result of somebody who feels like they've reached the top level of that, all the power and all that, feeling that they're entitled to the sexuality. It's taking it one step too far. But if we perpetuate, like, this is, if you give all this, everybody's going to worship you and all that stuff, did we create our own monsters?
But it also depends.
I like that, Dave.
It also depends what country you're living in.
That is true.
If you're living, let's say, in Asia or Europe or Sweden or something, it might be completely different.
It's different, but the world
I
is
know in
still
Asia.
generally going. I mean, okay, so what you guys said, I was saying, why, right? To me, that's always been the question. Is it because of our society or is it because of something natural? I tend to think it's both, really. Because there are certain things that I feel like just evolutionary women will always want to look for in a guy. For instance, sense of humor. Yeah, it's cool, but it's really a display of intelligence. I'm going to pass this down to my offspring. For instance, being physically capable or something, having a good job. It's really coding in their, reptilian brain.
Men are looking for that in women, right? Men
are looking for that in women, but they're also looking for more physical things as well. I just think it's natural.
Oh, I see.
Like, if you kind of get what I'm saying.
I think there's some socio-biological elements.
Yeah, I mean, it just kind of, we can't buck millions of years of, evolution, but there is also things that are just societal as well, like women being leaders, things like that. That's not biological. That's just shit we made up. I feel like as well. So it's better now. I feel like than it's ever been. Generally, I mean, but we still have some work to do.
A lot of work.
Yeah, this is really interesting.
I think you have something to say.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Angie.
No, I'm just thinking about it.
I think that this is. We're probably not going to talk about Niger. I'll go tell you that right now. We're going to go ahead and skip to the next one after that. So, psych, we'll do that maybe another time. I just put that on at the last minute anyway.
Oh, you want prepared for it? Yeah, I got 4.
No, we're going to do the we're going to do the day in history. Well, I mean, there's so much to say about this topic. Fine.
Yeah.
Well, we can go ahead and switch over. Let's do Niger for a quick moment then. Since you prepared for it, Angie, what do you have to say about that incident? Why don't you brief us then? You didn't prepare? You lied to me? Oh my God.
Okay, so what?
Okay, so 4 people were killed in Nigeria.
Yes.
Go ahead.
4 people were killed in Nigeria. Some of the senators had no idea we even had troops in the U.S. in Africa apparently, and there's 2 differentiating stories about apparently either the U.S. troops chased one of these, I don't know, tribal. It's probably related to Al Qaeda or something.
It's not. Go ahead.
Related, they said some sort
Terrorist
of terrorist
Yeah.
organization that would be like a spin-off from Al Qaeda or something. So they either chased them, and then this terrorist organization came back and attacked them, or the U.S. is just saying, the Pentagon said that the U.S. was just attacked. They didn't do anything.
Of course.
That's all I gathered.
So 4 people died.
4 people
Yeah.
died.
People died.
Well, 3 died instantly. The 4th one was, left behind for 2
yeah.
hours. The black sergeant,
Yeah.
they picked up the 3, but they left the other guy, and he was out there for I think 2 or 3 hours before someone found out, to pick him up. See what bothers me with that whole thing, since I'm with Special Forces,
Right.
and I knew what the group's supposed to do, and I just don't understand how there was no drones that saw this attack or people surrounding. I mean, it's unbelievable how the military screwed this up. But to me, it's the military. It's like Benghazi. Well, if you want to go Benghazi, but I think it refers to. This is worse than that because this is an actual team. Special Forces, you go out as a team, like 12-man team. You go into a like a hut or something. In Nigeria, I'm sure they were
Niger,
going
by
for.
the way. It wasn't Nigeria.
No, it was
Niger.
Niger or Nigeria.
What was it? Was it Niger?
Yeah.
I've heard
Which is-
Niger.
Niger.
Niger?
It's
Oh,
Niger.
so
I
was
think
it?
it's
Anyway, Niger. I'm
whatever.
sorry.
And it's
Well,
It's
whatever.
not Nigeria. That's
Neighbor.
it.
What the
Right.
12-man team does, he goes into the remote village and it's not a fighting unit. Special Forces is not a fighting unit. What they do, they teach people how to fight.
Right.
That's basically all they
Supportive.
do. And they're supposed to assist, the people in the village to defend themselves.
Wasn't there
basically.
mercenaries there involved too at some point?
Well,
I don't
it-
really know.
Shit, maybe.
If
Yes.
it's
They
they say
Eric
it's a
Prince
Special
had
Forces
his-
group, and that's a 12-man team.
Yeah.
So my concern is when you have a 12-man team helping
I thought they said
civilians,
50.
huh?
What's 50? Maybe it's 12 Americans, and
Well, it might be
they kept saying a group of 50.
it could be like other CIA or it
I
could
think
be
it's
other
other-
something like yeah. But Special Forces is a 12-man team unless they changed it.
Oh.
But so they're supposed to be supporting. Maybe they had a platoon of Niger. Was it Nigeria? Or was it
Niger.
Not
Nigeria?
Nigeria, but whatever.
Anyway,
I know what you're
local
talking about.
people. They were assisting the local people. They were assisting the local people to
He
keep.
doesn't want to go back over that.
They
again with you.
they're assisting the local community to take care of themselves. That's where the 50 people were.
Right.
But my problem is when you go out in a 12-man team, you're supposed to have support. I don't understand where there's no drones. I mean, you have drones covered now.
first
You have
let's
the
admit we don't know all the
technology.
details.
Well, I'm
That's what I'm
saying that's
saying.
what bothers me.
Yeah. We don't
the
know
drones-
whether they had
Never
support or
will.
not. And
Well,
we probably never
well, you
will
should.
know all
I
the
mean,
details.
if you have drone
Yeah.
capability, I'm sure they must have had drone or
They
should
said
have.
there was one drone in the, and I don't know.
And
how
that's
close it
somewhat
was.
screwed up.
Yeah, obviously something.
No,
yeah,
and
something happened.
especially when you have
Something went wrong.
no support. Like it took 2 hours before the French aircraft picked them up. It was like 2 or 3 hours.
So what you're
mean, that's-
saying
that's-
is that it doesn't make sense, which also goes
Exactly.
along with the lack of
Information,
which
exactly.
says that something was probably going down there that the French and everybody else didn't need to know about.
Yes.
Exactly.
And
Well, yeah,
I
that's
hate-
the thing too.
Or was it set up?
Is
Or was
that,
it set up for an ambush? That's what I was.
is-
That's what my concern was.
Who's on the need to know basis, right? It's like, I went ahead and I looked up our command there. It's like, what is it? Soak Africa. Yeah, I read up that it used to be CENTCOM, and then I believe in the early 2000s they broke off and made a whole nother division of the Army of Special
Ops?
Operations
Special Ops,
for
right.
Africa Command for the entire
Right.
continent of Africa. And I was reading this commander, this general, this top brass speech in front of Congress. I don't know if I have the date on it, but it was fairly recent. I want to say 2012 or so. And he was stating the objectives of the African Command. And in a nutshell, it was to pretty much what we've been doing forever right now, right? Disrupting, I think, what he called violent extremist organizations and
Or propaganda.
trying to stop them from consolidating.
Right.
and to obviously, disrupt the flow of counterfeit money, all those types of objectives. So that's pretty much what we can assume that we were doing down there, right? Is that in that goal, we were training other African nations to use their military force to go ahead and stop.
And Obama.
Under Obama, we also started training a different group of terrorists because we wanted to support the overthrow of Syria.
Right.
So it's now a known fact that Obama was trying to set a group that is labeled as a group of terrorists, sending them weapons. So America's actually funding one group of terrorists, and then we're pissed that somebody else is funding another one.
That's what I was going to say.
But that could be part of what this is about.
Yes.
They could have been training terrorists.
I think that's what, at the end of the day, and I hate to sound callous about this, but obviously there was a mess up somewhere. But isn't this just the end result of our essentially sticking our finger in every pie we can find in the world? I mean, it's stuff like this is going to happen as long as we have military bases all over the world.
All over the world.
It's...
But my problem is, why did that one guy got separated from the team?
Don't know.
He was separated from the team. Somehow he got separated.
I will go ahead and say that, when it comes to our reasons for being there, I think, according to the speech that I was reading, and I'll put it in the notes of this show, and he was talking about our objective was to go ahead and train the native military of certain countries in order to help them combat terrorism in their countries. So I believe that, it's safe to assume that these Green Beret were probably there to do something with that.
Yeah, that's
to
what
go
they
ahead
do.
and
That's their
train the
mission.
native Niger military.
Yeah.
I don't like that term, though. Because even now, when you say that and you say to combat the local terrorists, I just think to fight against people who are fighting against us.
Oh, that's the ultimate goal.
It's just to protect us.
That's the ultimate
At the end
goal.
of the day, everything is to protect.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So we can.
Yeah, we want to
dress
train
it
them
up
to do
either
that
way,
work
but-
for us.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, here's some guns. Here's some training. Now stop those people who don't like us. You
know,
fight it out.
and that's
that's the goal with that. Our reach is incredible. It's always fascinating when you hear a story like this. It's like, pop up some seemingly random group of special forces out in some country somewhere got killed doing something, and
they're many. I know a few groups are out there right now.
Yeah, I only can imagine.
But Congress has no idea. That's what
I thought that
bothers
was
me.
just-
Congress didn't know anything about this.
I thought they were just the people who were quoting that were just like stupid or something. I'm not trying to be funny. I just thought
No, they were
maybe
trying to
it's
make it
so
secretive.
many things going on that they couldn't keep up with every little project going
No,
on.
because they knew if they put it out in the newspapers, people would go crazy. Started going, oh, what do you mean we're doing African countries, African people?
Sure. And I think the fact that the Congress person would admit that, hey, I had no idea, as well, kind of speaks volumes.
Sure.
If you will. It's kind of...
I see.
You know what I'm saying? Like, the fact that they'll come out and say, whichever specific Congress person, I had no idea.
He knows. He probably checked to make sure that information wasn't already disclosed to him, and he just didn't miss it. Okay.
Yes.
Now, you talk
How
about...
did this story get leaked? Or?
Okay.
Well,
they
know it wasn't leaked.
Four people died.
Four people died.
The controversy that
Trump.
leaked was the Trump
Of
failing
course.
to put out a
course.
good
Just
message to people and made the widow really, really pissed because she said he knew what he
that's
was
how
getting
this
into.
whole thing got
yeah.
started?
Yeah, it's really a Trump thing. Surprise, surprise. I know, right? I know. Huge surprise there, yeah.
Oh,
But-
so it's still pending from that, like...
Yeah.
Right.
Well, other
so-
things have come up because of this.
I'm
He
fine.
apparently promised a father of someone else who had been killed a few months ago some money,
Right.
and he never sent it.
$25,000.
And, yeah, I know.
Oh,
You're
he said
surprised,
it
right? He
after
lied.
his-
No way. Like,
He promised them
Why would he
$25,000.
promise some money?
Because he's Trump, man. He's Trump. He's not thinking.
And he blamed other
it came in his
presidents.
head. That's
Yeah,
what.
yeah,
that's
yeah,
what I'm saying.
It came in his
he's
head.
on all-
And then
Autopilot,
he
man.
blames
You just-
other presidents, which was a
Yeah,
lie.
then he said Obama and Bush should never
And
call
Bush-
people.
Of course, that's
Which
just
was a
you can
lie.
tell that's like what a
Yeah.
kid does,
He
right?
just-
Isn't
they-
that what like a kid does? Like,
Wait a
well, Johnny does. It's like, what?
Yeah,
Come
he's
on,
young.
dude.
Emotionally.
So this is really why this is a huge story.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's
yeah.
basically
Yeah, sure.
The gasoline lighter in cheese.
Because I was wondering, I'm like,
Gasoline all
it's
over
for troops. Like,
Yeah.
why is this such a big story
Yeah.
in that?
But I think it goes back to what you're saying. I'm sure Obama had his fair share of pulls.
Oh,
there.
yeah.
So it is in somewhat where
It's
Trump
sensationalized
is
bullshit.
judged sometimes more harshly than other people.
Yeah.
A lot of that I would say is self-inflicted. But then of course all the other stuff that he gets away with that no other president would ever
get away
know,
with.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
But
Exactly.
that's
kinda
why
like
I pointed out this was from Obama from 2013.
Sure.
Yeah, I feel like this story of like how he made his condolences is completely overblown. It's a nothing burger story to
that's
me.
like some CNN stuff.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, right. CNN being
Yeah,
over
like just go for like 5 days.
Yeah, exactly. On the call,
Yeah.
It's like, come on, guys,
Yeah.
that's utterly ridiculous. And this is the reason why Donald Trump gets a pass on serious stuff is because of nothing stories like this that I think CNN and other media organizations gravitate towards and try to like nail him on, and it's like just let this one go,
Yeah.
bro.
It's
Just
also
let
a
it
reason
go,
why
bro.
he gets, why so many people believe him when with real stories he says fake news. It's because
Yeah.
of things like this that they
Yeah.
can point to where, oh, there is a conspiracy against
Exactly,
him.
exactly,
I can see it, like...
But it all began because he called that. It all began because he criticized that representative, the Democrat representative.
Lady with the
That
with the hat.
I forgot her
Well,
name,
anyway,
but lady with the front
that's
hat.
where it came from. He called her a liar.
Well, she was
she
with
was at-
the widow when he called her, and she's
Well,
the
and
one
also
that
she
came
was
out
at
and
the
said he didn't
funeral.
remember
She
his
was at the
name,
funeral.
blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
And
of course
she made that,
But that was after the initial story was set. So like CNN and
I mean,
the
he
media
perpetrated
sow
it.
this story, this narrative of Donald Trump, like blaming Obama or not really caring, and then after that it just spiraled down into like a trash story. Now it's like, well, they're lying when I said this. Then John Kelly comes out, so then he says his
dude.
stuff, and obviously
He must have died
he's now
inside
playing.
having to do
Yeah,
that.
he's playing politics
John
a little
Kelly
bit
of
too.
all people?
Yeah,
I was like,
exactly.
wow,
So
okay.
now we got this shit
spiraling.
story about
And that-
nothing, man. It's
Well, that's because of his tweeting and his
He just makes things worse.
he makes things up. And
He just
he
makes
goes
things worse.
he goes virtual and he goes on Twitter.
Donald
and
Trump loves this
so
stuff.
it becomes to the news.
Yeah,
It becomes
we've-
news.
We've
If
talked
he
in
keeps-
past history. He's brilliant about it. He keeps this
Exactly.
story is eliminating the liberal
Russia
credibility because they really are just perpetuating a trash story. He'll start getting away with whatever else he wants to, and we're not worried about what.
I'm
Trump
not even
does.
sure
I
this
agree.
is a Democrat thing. Is more of like this is the media shooting
I
themselves
agree.
in the foot.
The media is so stupid.
It's like it's like just let this one go, bro. I mean, we got the tax plans and stuff coming up. We got real shit that's
Yeah,
going on,
important.
and exactly.
But if he
And-
doesn't do these tweets, he can do all that. But,
But
he's responsible for all that negative press he's getting.
But I think what they're saying is he's doing it
He's doing it on
calculated.
purpose.
He's
He's
calculated.
brilliant.
Yeah,
It's brilliant.
yeah, like,
Exactly. Yeah.
He's distracted from
yeah,
real
maybe
issues.
you're right.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys heard.
I don't know. I mean, it's a terrible way of doing it.
If you guys know
Calculated.
Devin Nunes, I'm sure he was a guy. He was he is a representative, and he was in charge of the Russia investigation, and he was essentially just working for Trump the whole time. Devin Nunes, he's now come out and announced an investigation into Hillary Clinton today and Barack Obama. So as soon as I'm like, okay, I guess Mueller must be on
Yeah.
something. It's just like you said, it's
Has
Donald
legs.
Trump. The media is that guy who keeps falling for, hey, there's something in your shirt.
Yeah, right.
And they just keep falling for it
Yeah,
over
yeah.
and over. And it's just like, guys, like,
The problem is that the media is like they are beholden to a economic bubble that they created for themselves, where like their model is no longer, I think, based on integrity. Maybe it is a bit, but not like it used to be. Instead, it's like we need to crunch these numbers. We need to make the money for our shareholders. Let's
Exactly.
look at the statistics. Who's watching this? Okay, this story is being watched by X millions of people, so people must love the whole Trump story of him and the whole and the nonsense with the fallen soldier and stuff. Which means we're going to do more of that shit. And it's like they're just. You can tell that this is like rating stuff, This is like just to keep you watching, so they can justify ad revenue, and it's
Or a distraction from the real.
just nuts to see. It's like And I feel bad for the actual journalists in these organizations, like, the New York Times and stuff, because there's good people working in there, hammering out like good stories and stuff. And it must suck to be like, I spent the past 6 months working on this Russia story, right? And I'm ready to go, ready to put it out there. And like, your editor goes, man, it's going to be another few months. We're going to go ahead and let this reel roll of like Donald Trump tweeting.
Yeah,
you got another Donald Trump tweet you got to
Trump
cover.
just called Rosie O'Donnell fat.
Yeah,
like, oh.
That's more important
Right.
than this here, buddy. And then by the time your story hits the pages, nobody cares or calls it fake news, and you're like,
And people believe it.
yeah, it's not. I feel bad for these journalists because it's not their fault. I believe like a lot of these journalists are really trying hard. They're like,
Sure.
they're out here trying to go ahead and get the real story and push it forward, but it just the apple's too fat. It's like I just gotta grab that low hanging bullshit, and we got to talk about the Donald Trump tweets and all that stuff first.
It's a reality.
And
like,
the people are paying for it. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we're the ones that are rewarding these stories with more and more clicks and interest. And the media,
Yep.
at the end of the day, has to make money. So if
Yep.
the Giants says every time that Trump's name comes up, suddenly our ratings get this huge boost.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to keep putting Trump's name out there
Yeah.
on these BS stories rather than
Right.
worry about the real issues.
Yeah.
His box office.
Sure.
Like every single news network. Like really, I actually read a long article about. I don't know if you guys know who Jeff Zucker is. He's the head of CNN. He before his old job was the head of reality TV at NBC.
Oh
Right?
my goodness.
He was the guy that did
I don't listen to those
one of the
things.
main people. Yeah,
there
so
you go.
and it was stories about how Trump would literally be on the phone with him when anchors on CNN were talking. He would then send it to them. Oh yeah, it's like it's all. I mean,
That's insane.
like you say, yeah, Trump getting elected, they must have all like wet their pants. Like, oh man, we're gonna make money for the next. It's like how stand-up comedians must have.
Yeah.
They must have all just been together in a giant party, like news execs, stand-up comedians. Like, oh, this is gonna be great.
Where I think many years ago, you should have had to pay for your journalism online. Still, I feel like because you see a lot of paywalls and stuff now coming up. New York Times and things like that. And but in the past 2 decades or so of like the news evolving on the internet, it's all been free. So people take information, like real good information, for granted. They're like, and they don't want to pay for it now. They feel like they can find it anywhere, which means that they're not considering their sources, which to me feels like they're not, that if these media organizations try to go ahead and, since they're putting these paywalls now, there's still all these alternative news sources out there that don't do such a good job in their vetting and their reporting, and some of them have ulterior motives, like clickbait stuff to just random BS stories just to go ahead and make ad revenue. So it's like I feel like journalism has lost its way.
But I think the thing what happened in Africa is a big story. It's a big story to me. I mean, if you're a veteran, I mean, how could you're sending your men to, in the army, military, you're thinking you have to support your country, and your country's let you down. I think it's a big.
It is
to
a
me,
big
it's
story.
a big story.
We just don't know
To me,
enough of it.
taxes are big, but I think, have a government that's so,
I'm sorry, I have
I'm
to disagree
sorry,
with
okay.
that. 4 people died.
It's
on
not
a
4
mission.
people. It's the idea of the military and what the
Not being
military is.
supported.
You only see the 4 people. You don't see the big picture of it.
Okay, so they've got an operation
Is it-
going
I'm
on
sorry.
in the United States. It's not the best run operation, and 4 people died. I'm sorry, that's not
Okay,
a story.
to you, but to me, it's a big story. It's just like the Cuban crisis was a big story. You probably it's only a couple of missiles in Cuba. That was going to start World War III. I mean, I was in the army. We were in the war room. On October 23rd, we had landing
if that's the
zones
same
going to
as this,
Cuba.
though.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
you
right.
don't understand how important that thing is, or what happened in these military. Vietnam is a good example.
Okay, you're naming a bunch of big things where lots of people died and trying to compare
No,
them
no, I'm talking
to a
about-
failed military operation where 4 people passed.
It's not.
I'm sorry, it's not the same scale.
Okay, we have a different opinion.
Well, yeah, that's fine, and it's fine to have a different opinion on it. I think that it's obviously big to you because you've been in the military, you're in the military, and you're concerned with those issues. So
I'm talking about the big picture. I'm not talking about the 4 men. I'm talking about how our military is going to, being run by a guy he doesn't know what he's doing.
Well, that's a whole nother.
Well,
I say.
no, well,
I
that's
don't
what
know.
that basically what it is. He's the commander in chief. He is responsible for that action.
I agree with that, but I don't know if I would hold him
And that-
directly, like in
That's
that
it, I do.
situation. Because I mean, could this have happened? Let's say underneath Obama.
They held
Bush
Jimmy
or-
Carter. They held Jimmy Carter with the Bay of not the Bay of Pigs.
The Iran
Yeah,
crisis.
with the
Iran crisis.
Iran Contra, and they brought him down.
I mean,
that's
doesn't
what
make it
nobody
right.
was killed
Doesn't
there.
make it
Yeah,
right,
I
though.
agree with you that.
But no.
Iran Contra. I mean,
But that's
Iran
that's
Contra
playing
is right.
politics, though.
Yeah.
I don't think
they blame him.
if we're talking about the truth, you know,
Yeah.
if we're talking about the truth, then that doesn't matter. But if we're talking about playing politics, like in we got to blame Trump because
Yeah.
we blamed Obama, then
I'm not-
then we're
yeah,
just playing
I know
games.
about, yeah.
You know,
I'm
it's
just
like
saying what's today. I'm not.
Yeah.
I can't.
I mean,
but when
realistically
someone says
today-
4 men, it's only 4 men. I really get excited about that because
Well,
you
hey,
don't
let's go ahead and
understand.
move on
You
now.
really don't understand.
let's go ahead and move on. We're getting there.
Apologize,
man.
okay.
So we could talk about
I
this
scream a lot.
day in history, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I know. I mean, for some reason I thought we were going to kind of blow by the Harvey Weinstein stuff, but we really got into it.
Yeah, we did,
And and then I thought we were going to go ahead and the Niger thing. We were definitely going to, but then we talked about that for another minute. So that is cool. That is all good though. But this segment here is like, you know, I just came up with the idea. We'll go ahead and share something that has happened in history on this day
Today.
that may have interested you as a person. Maybe you can go ahead and spawn a certain discussion. If not, then that's cool too. You know, we can go ahead and just move on to another topic.
Yeah, this,
Okay.
So
I'm
it's-
looking for something right now. By the way.
My history is.
All right, yeah. I started
My history is most important for me is when Eisenhower gained support in 1954 to South Vietnam, which
So
actually
October
started a
24th,
war.
1954?
Which, yes, 1954 of this date. He gave support to the French, support of South Vietnam. So to me, that's very important because that started the Vietnamese War,
This started Vietnamese
which
War.
people don't realize. They think
Yeah.
they blame it on Kennedy or Johnson, but it was Eisenhower. Second thing I was really interesting is the Red Guards. As the first time in the Bolsheviks gained control of the buildings in Russia, which was the 1917.
Yeah.
1917, which started that revolution.
Mm.
Also, another one was the founding of the UN.
That was
Did
mine.
Yeah, I saw that.
That
was
really
today.
saw it? Yeah.
That was today.
That
The
was
founding of the
important. What
UN.
else? I haven't one. That was the.
Well, let's go back to Eisenhower for a second. What do you guys think of Eisenhower? He's like the classic Republicans FDR, you know? He's like he's really revered, I think, among those circles.
I would think Reagan would be more than Eisenhower.
You think so? I think
Would
that
you
Reagan.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
Reagan
I
would
think
be
Reagan-
more
I'm talking about
than
more
Eisenhower.
Okay, well, I'm thinking of like the. I'm not talking about like today's conservative type of
Right.
Republican who, like, you know, I guess I'm more thinking of somebody who's more of like a policy wonk or something to
But
that
Eisenhower
effect.
was against the military establishment.
Yes, he was. That's what's interesting about him.
He was worried about the growing of the military.
There's a classic quote that's always out there now where he like he warns about the military-industrial complex,
Right.
right? And he's like, you know, they're coming to get us. I gotta get.
I mean, he was an incredible military man, but as a president, I think he sucked.
You think he sucked? Why did he
Yeah.
suck?
Well, because with the Vietnam thing, of course.
Well, but he didn't know.
And
I don't think he knew like that action at that time would you know
yeah, I guess he-
decades later
no.
dissolve into that massive horrible
well, he supported.
situation.
He saw the French was defeated in '54, so he. I mean, as a president, he should have seen. The populace was not for that popular government at that time, because the French was ousted by a popular uprising.
Mm-hmm.
So he saw that. I mean, he saw it. As a president, you could see.
Okay, yeah, he saw what happened to the French. Yeah, but I mean, maybe
But he saw
Eisenhower's thought was like, well, we have
the
different
opposition.
objectives.
He saw the opposition.
Mm-hmm.
The people in Vietnam didn't want that government because it was killing Buddhists, it was massacring, like all kinds of, making like if you're non-Christian, you were subjugated to like second-class citizens.
I think what nobody saw was how sensationalized Vietnam War was going to be. That's what I think.
He was
that's what I
against
think happened.
communism. That was his downfall. He thought all communism was the same, and it wasn't. He was in that McCarthy area in the
Yeah.
1950s,
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That
and he
was
was. It
American
was.
policy
I
in
mean,
general.
at that time, communism was the threat of the American society. It was like you got to stop communism, no matter how bad it is in other countries. You got to stop it because it's against capitalism. It's atheist country.
It's like drawing an allegory today. It's like Islam.
Yeah.
Islam. Some people at least see.
It's a good analogy, right?
Yeah, there's that neoconservative thought of like America needs a great enemy, right? Of
Right.
like
Right.
we need some type of bad guy out there in order to keep us unified. And
I
we've
don't
been
think that's
looking for it.
American. That's a perpetual thought that's been in society. I don't think.
No, I mean that's part of like the neoliberal like classical definition. I don't remember the exact words, but I know that that's part of that ideology, that mentality of like we need to find like unity and consistency and progression happens when we can define ourselves as a nation to some other counterpoint, and then from there that gets morphed into a military sense of we need to go ahead and.
But you mean civil rights? He was against he was not for segregation, but he didn't do anything, to give civil rights any bill. Truman put the bill in place, and he just put it aside because he was afraid of the Southern backlash.
Yeah.
So I mean, you got to really look at Eisenhower's policies. As a military
do you
general,
feel
he's a
like he was
genius.
more like managerial as a president then? He just kind of wasn't. Really
How do you feel? I mean, you never
I-
thought about that?
So, I mean, first off, he's pre-Johnson, so this is before the Democrats and the Republicans swapped
Yeah.
sides.
Right,
so-
right.
Yeah.
Well, Kennedy was the one who
I forgot about that.
superseded.
I didn't
Well,
even
but
realize
that's what I'm
that.
saying. He's
Yeah.
pre-Johnson, and
Oh, I see what
Johnson
you
was
mean.
the one that switched the
It
Republicans
was
and the
that late,
Democrats.
huh?
Yes.
Yes.
Johnson, right after he took over from Kennedy, supported Martin Luther King.
Yep.
And in supporting Martin Luther King, forced the Southern Republicans, because the South was a Republican majority, to switch to Democrats, and
Okay,
those
yeah.
that were.
But it
and-
started,
other
actually
way
started.
around.
Other
It
way
actually
around.
started with
Southern-
Truman
Other way around.
when the Dixiecrats supported Stu Thurman in the Truman election.
That I wasn't aware of. So.
I
So
think
you
that was
just-
the genesis.
I'm gonna say-
I think that was the genesis of it was
This whole
when
What did
Stu
Johnson
Thurman
say?
broke
Was
away.
it
They called them Dixiecrats.
Integration, and I want to say someone turned him as like,
Integration,
"Sir, you've
yeah.
just lost
See-
the South for a generation."
Yes.
Yeah.
And
That was the term.
more than a few generations, I'd say now. It's
All right, well, what you got, Kwaku? What you
I
find
actually
on the
didn't
phone?
find anything.
You did not find anything.
The Manchurian
Oh, thank you,
Candidate
man.
came out.
The
When did
Manchurian
it come
Candidate.
out?
I didn't see that movie.
The movie?
The Manchurian Candidate came out this year in 1962, which I don't know.
Was it a good movie?
Yeah, but no.
Was it?
It was terrible. I hated it. It was the worst movie
bigger
ever.
stuff. Like, for example, today is Bloody Friday, as of October 24th, 2008, where we had our biggest modern crash in real estate, which they were
That's
trying to get
yeah.
rid of the regulations that came as a result of that, meaning we may soon be repeating history on that October 24th day.
Would not
Was
be
that Thursday?
surprised.
Black Thursday was Black Thursday.
Thursday
It's called
was-
Black Thursday.
Oh,
No,
I
no,
thought it was
that's
Bloody
No,
Friday.
you're talking
No,
about
you're
two
thinking about
different
the
things.
RA. Bloody Friday was the
You're talking
RA
about real
thing.
estate. You're talking about the stock market crash.
Crash,
Yeah,
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 28.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
stuff,
that's
real estate.
different.
Yeah.
But
I'm thinking of Bloody
hey,
Friday
if I can, I
is
guess,
the Irish IRA.
No, that's what I was
in
gonna
England.
say. You're talking about something different. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the Manchurian, I think,
Manchurian Candidate was a great movie.
yeah. And again, this is
Great,
a little
fantastic.
far-fetched, but I think there is something in the whole Russia was grooming Trump to run. Which
I
is the
think-
Manchurian Candidate. I don't know if you guys have ever seen it. But it's
Revised.
similar to
original.
I wouldn't say it was something like they were intentionally brainwashing him, but like we said, they were very intent of sowing seeds of discord, things like that. He's had dealings with them, and I know they're very good at this. I mean, I've always been of the mindset like the Cold War didn't end, the U.S. just stopped fighting. The Russians had just kind of started doing it in other ways, very, very
Covert.
covert ways, and I
RTV.
think TV, and yeah, and I think we like to look at ourselves as big bad USA and stuff like that, but there are like, especially Russia specifically, the war they're fighting is almost like on another level, and they're very, very good at it.
Yeah.
very, because they've had a long head start. And
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Their
But they're
overall is
paranoid.
amazing.
exactly.
The
And we're
paranoid
still,
nation.
I feel like we're still, as a country, haven't realized like what they're doing in its entirety.
Yeah,
So
underestimate
that would
them
be-
if you want. I think that
No,
the
I-
Russians have been grooming us as a people online.
I think it worked out better than they could have ever
Possibly
Sure.
imagined.
possibly imagined. Like, wow, this is
Yeah.
actually happening. Like, I really, it worked out better.
Oh
than-
yeah, they're gonna
like,
be
wow.
they're gonna be poking this wound for a long time, man.
Yeah.
They're gonna be like, yeah.
But
That's
on
where
the line
it's at.
of Strong USA, and we talked about feats of manliness. October 24th, 1901, first guy successfully survives going over Niagara Falls in a barrel.
Right.
There we go.
Exactly.
Okay, so did you do any further reading on that?
I did not.
Okay, what's the point?
I have seen
Why do
documentaries
people on
that.
okay? You've seen those YouTube videos of those people who climb those skyscrapers,
just an
right?
adventure,
And they have their like
yeah.
GoPro
Yeah.
cam and stuff.
I saw that.
It's,
Well,
It's a
I was-
sign of
concept.
manliness. We've talked about
but
today.
women have done
You
it
think that's
too.
a sign? I don't. I'm just like,
know.
what's? I just don't get the
It's
point.
just adventure. Just to
It's
say they
adventure,
did, and they
adrenaline
would be in
rush.
the newspaper.
That's what's important to him.
They would be
Adrenaline
famous.
junkies.
Sure, but
Yeah.
why in a barrel? Because you said first, so I'm thinking
have
a
to
bunch
be
of
in a
people.
barrel.
There were several
Oh,
that
yeah,
failed,
yeah, that's right.
It's
Yeah,
just
you
like,
You are accurate. I do know that much.
Because
So-
the barrel will like protect you,
It's
and
funny
then
how
you
it-
float up when you go down.
Yeah.
So
It's
you would
funny-
have a chance of living.
It's not any importance. Mine was like political. He was entertainment. Yours is like,
Like a
entertainment.
barrel.
It's just interesting. What would touch your
I wanna keep
touch
it
your
on a
mind?
lighter-
A lighter side,
I
lighter
think
side.
the
Mine
same
was
thing.
bouncing.
Have y'all seen those videos on YouTube?
Oh,
People with the
yeah.
GoPro
Yeah.
cam and
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
That's
Absolutely.
nuts, man. That is
Yeah.
nuts.
People-
Every
I
time
think it's
I see
adrenaline
that,
and
dude,
fame.
I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my god.
Yeah.
People look at.
I'm
People
not a
look at
huge
it.
heights guy. So
Yeah, I hate heights
it's
too,
Like,
so it's
oh,
like, hey,
every
more
time I
power
see
to
the,
you.
you
Don't
see the
die.
one with the guy on the what is they call it, the hoverboards? Well, not really hoverboards, like the wheels. He's like rolling around on the edge and stuff. I was like,
Some are called hoverboard. So weird.
I don't know why they call it
It's
that.
just like-
It's stupid.
That's anything for clicks, I guess.
Anything,
Absolutely.
man, anything.
Before there were even clicks, we had Evel Knievel going up and doing all that stuff.
Sure.
Yeah.
Jumping the
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know. I feel like
Or
I
the
would say-
tennis
I'll
match
put him in a
between
different
Rig
category.
and which one?
I'll put Evel Knievel in. I'll put him in a category of just someone who wanted to just push the limits. I kind of have a respect for that. Someone who just wants to push the limit in every single way, like a David Blaine type character.
Or Juan Linda?
These people taking cameras and stuff. I think most of them is just, hey, how can I get 10,000
Exactly.
views?
Try to glorify
Oh, how
themselves.
can I get
Or
famous?
something, you know, some sort of
That was how they
narcissism
got
or
famous.
trying to
Yeah,
glorify.
there was a
Sure.
person whose name we admittingly don't know, but who's still listed on a historic piece because today on October 24th, he went over there and he
Live.
enjoyed the adrenaline. He enjoyed. I mean, there's an adventure. Sometimes
Sure.
you have to come
Sure.
close to death to really
Sure.
feel like you're living. For some people,
Sure.
I
That's a
don't.
good-
There's got to be something wrong with your brain, though.
Right.
That's something-
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
that
is that is that a dementia of some sort? Are adrenaline junkies dementia?
Hey, not
No.
all mental illnesses like are necessarily bad. You know, I think we all, to some degree, you know, have some type of quirks and stuff going on. Now, I'm just saying though that there's something wrong with that dude. Hey, hold on.
It's a
So
little
we have
gorge
two
with it.
conversations going on here.
Yeah,
So the
you're right.
people that pay people to torture them, like,
Yeah.
so like, are you talking about like sadomasochists or some sort of
I
like
think
Sadists. Yeah.
sadists?
But it
Yeah,
was like
yeah.
another level. You
But
said.
it was to another
Masochist.
extreme. So these people,
A friend
well,
was
that's
trying to
still
say, like,
that the
beat
word is
'em.
still sadist, but they literally pay people not in any sexual way to
Yeah.
just beat
Yeah,
ever
just
living
torture.
hell out of
I
them.
don't know what that's funny.
Maybe they
man.
like it. Well, of course they like
And they
it.
said that's just what they're into, and I'm like, but there has to be something wrong with them mentally.
Probably.
Yeah,
like they've
something
been
inside
abused or
something's
something.
going on.
Pain
where-
and pleasure in the brain are pretty.
That's
close,
what
right?
they were
yeah.
They probably
saying.
just have an overlap more
And
than the average
Marquis de
person.
Sade said he could get that into any person. You give him the most prude person who wasn't into that,
Yeah.
he will have you begging for
Who?
the Marquis de
For the ass
Sade,
beating.
the
For the
person
Sade.
whose name gave us sadomasochism.
Sadomasochism.
He wrote the book.
He wrote the book.
He wrote the literal
He,
book.
he's the Bible.
Sadomasochism.
Right.
Huh.
What do you say? Yeah.
I bet he'll have them begging. I bet they'll say anything. You know, like, yeah, sure, I love it, dude. Stop. I can't say my safe word.
He's
you
one
know?
confident person. He
Yeah,
thinks he can do
you know, you
Well, then
gotta
you did the
have,
gorge.
you gotta be on some other level, man.
I'm sure the Wright brothers, people thought they were crazy.
Yeah.
But they were actually
Yeah, I'm
trying
serious.
to build
No, I'm
something. I think that's
serious.
different. I mean, they were actually trying to build something rather than being
But
addicted to the rush.
At that
of it
time, they
or-
probably thought they were crazy going take an airplane.
Right. I mean,
Not
Orville Wright
themselves,
did
people.
go over a
A
house
cliff.
height.
Yeah.
And went down and crashed right in his first 12
Exactly,
second
yeah.
flight. I mean, this wasn't a smart thing to be doing.
No.
They were screwing around and getting a flight. They happened to get
They were
something
trying to
working.
Right, yeah.
Yeah,
right.
but I'm sure they believed it in themselves. I mean, this was something that they were designing themselves. So I'm sure they probably looked, again, I don't know, obviously, at Orville Wright and was like, well, he just didn't do it wrong. We're better than that. You know,
Right.
You know what's crazy to me is those people is
I'll be right back.
this is part of what I was discussing. I was talking with you earlier, Kwaku. Is no, it's all right. It's all right. Yeah, no. Hey, stay here. Pee on the chair. Is the explorers during the European
Yeah,
Imperial Age and
I was
stuff like
thinking of
that.
that, too.
Like you got to be some
Like
type
Antarctica.
of deranged or weird to think like, all right, I'm gonna go ahead, get on a boat, and
Go to Antarctica.
in the
Go to
middle.
Antarctica.
and I'm talking about way before that. I'm talking about just like going to what we call today, you know, the Caribbean, or to
Right.
or to what is modern day Brazil. I'm talking about the Spanish conquistadors
sure.
and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Exploration.
Like, yeah, like I'm gonna get on this boat. We already know many of these boats don't make it. I
Yeah.
could die of disease or now malnutrition before I even get there.
Yeah.
You know, and then when I get there, we're gonna have to go ahead and survive over there. I don't know, get gold for the queen or
Right.
whatever. Or I mean, just I remember reading the journals of some of these guys. I think one of them was like Nueves, who's part of Hernando Cortez's troop, and just like going, just doing that. Just like we're gonna go ahead and like go to this country, and then we're gonna fight these natives, try to survive off of the land, get into a war with a whole population of people we don't even know. I mean,
Especially
it's
their
just
cannibals.
amazing to think.
Especially
You
the
gotta
cannibals.
be
What
tough.
we
You gotta think of like, how tough as nails you gotta be to
You've got to be
survive.
tough or desperate.
Yeah,
A lot
one
of
of the
people
two.
did it to escape.
A lot of criminals,
Libya.
you know, went ahead
Yeah.
and did it.
Like the people that came over here?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Okay.
Explorers, like, you know, they've taken away Columbus holiday, but I was.
Who's that? They did?
Well, like some
Some
countries.
places.
Some places.
Yeah, I
Some
think,
places.
is it Spain that took it?
Well,
No,
even the United States
No,
are
I
kind of
thought
trying
it
to
was
take
here.
it. He was
Yeah.
such a terrible
Here.
person.
I
Yeah,
think-
that's not going to survive much longer, I think. He was an awful dude.
So yeah, because he was known to be so awful. However, there has to be some traits, even though he was like awful person. I think he had to be admirable in some ways, because to lead a ship into the middle of nowhere, like,
Sure.
and
You're right.
So he was he was a wealthy noble who was actually really stupid. He believed the world was
Yeah.
pear-shaped.
Yeah.
And
He was going to
believed that
India.
there was
What's
a
India?
quick
What's Burma?
entry
Yeah.
that he could do the
And-
East Andrews
get to
country.
He's trying to go to India. Yeah, yeah.
Trying to
He's
get
going to-
there.
but even knowing all that, like, I know all that.
True.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. all that history
even
is
him
still
as
out.
like a pansy
Right,
noble
right.
was still he was a
Just-
hardcore dude.
To get in a ship and go out.
And he did it
and-
more than once, right? He
Yeah.
did it like several times.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
once he got back, he said that, I could get you hundreds of slaves at
Yeah.
a very
Right,
cheap
right.
cost.
And
And
I mean,
that was how he
I understand
got
he was
the trade
brutal
going.
and all that,
And
but
then they ended up locking him up, right? Because he wasn't performing. Didn't he die in jail, prison, or something like that?
no.
He got
No.
locked up at one point when he went back to Europe. I vividly remember.
I'd
that.
have to look
What?
at history at that. He
I
was,
don't know.
he was
I could be
considered
wrong.
successful because he
That
did
would be
get
funny
land for
because
the queen.
after
Yeah.
all he did for
And
Spain-
hundreds of slaves
Yeah.
and whatnot.
Right,
So
right.
Hernando Cortez, he was even more. That dude was a horrible person. He was a badass, man. Like that dude, that guy. I mean, think of like trying to communicate with a whole bunch of people you don't know their culture, their language. You don't know. All you know is that, man, I need to get here. I need to get the damn gold. I need to get out.
I think those
And,
people know
Or the
that.
culture, they're going to eat you.
yeah, like you're sitting there, you're watching these, like you're watching these people. You have no idea really kind of where you're at. You got incomplete maps, and
Right.
and,
Like a Lewis and
we gotta
Clark.
survive this. We gotta
Like-
survive it, and we gotta make it back.
Like Lewis and Clark.
Yep.
Yeah, exploring westward in the United
Yeah.
States too. You gotta have
Sure.
I mean, you gotta have something in you to like do that.
Climb Mount Everest. We had tons.
Yeah.
Hillary, yeah.
And that was had a lot more people dying than those that
I
were going
don't
over
have
the...
a single
That's crazy.
desire to do that.
No, you're not
No,
crazy.
but there are plenty of people that do.
Yeah, I get that.
Like being
I mean, I can
cold,
get that.
can't breathe.
Yeah, but you've
Sun
You
been
get
Somewhere
oxygen.
that
Yeah, but oxygen.
you've
you
been
know.
somewhere that the vast majority of people have never. I mean, I can understand if that was my thing, like how I would.
I can same here because I
Yeah,
like
yeah,
mountain
I
climbing.
get that.
I like
I mean,
hiking.
If like you lived back in the good old 13th century or so, when some Spanish guy came to you and said, "Hey man, we're gonna go ahead and go. We're gonna go over to this place."
He would give me a choice.
And
So he's
yeah,
like,
he's asking, like, you want to come along? You want to come along, bro? Yeah, yeah. He's not forcing you.
I don't know. It's just so hard to say.
You're not rich. You're just an average dude. You know,
I guess.
living
I
in the
mean,
13th
I would
century.
be into doing that, but back then, I mean, how many people survived? Probably
Not a lot at
maybe
all.
half.
You're pretty certain that if you go,
You're
the
gonna be
odds
on
of
a
you
boat
coming back is pretty slim.
or a ship for how many
Yeah.
weeks or
But
months
he's like he's a salesman too. He's like, you know, but there's more. There's a bunch of gold
Oh yeah,
that we can
Oh,
get,
sure.
and if we can bring it back,
yeah.
straight.
Sure. I mean, I'll probably do that. And as tough as it is on
Yeah.
the boat, I mean, it was kind of tough for everyone. But I mean, shit on the streets, you know, no doctors
Right.
for when you break your limbs. And
I
so
mean-
people back then were generally just a lot more callous.
When your
than
life
definitely.
expectancy is 35.
I know,
I
right?
like expectancy,
Not
right?
so bad.
Yeah.
A travel talent is probably less.
That's even more interesting to think of, like, you know, what were the ages of these people going over to America? You know, like what were we
20s
talking like
probably?
early 20s? You know,
Which
and
is
they were like
pretty
grown ass
Yeah.
Was
men.
it really
it wasn't
35? No.
The average life expectancy in the 14th century
about
was
right.
35,
That's
especially
about
considering
right.
you had
Well, the
that was the
epidemics.
Dark Ages.
Yeah.
That was named the Dark Ages for a reason. It was one of the lowest points in everything in our life.
I swear the Black
You've got to
Plague.
understand
Was
how
it a
many
Black
people
Plague
were
or
dying
the
in their
emphysema?
childhood and lower
The, or
than
the,
Modern
that.
sanitation.
or
There was
the
no sanitation
epidemics
going on, yeah.
happened, wasn't it?
They're still leeching people, right? You know, like putting leeches on people, and I mean, they're doing all types of
If
crazy
you
stuff to
accidentally
go ahead
get
and-
cut, you could die from it.
Yeah, that's what I
Right.
mean. Like,
I don't know.
and I wouldn't say that would be okay, but it'll be like, oh yeah, you know, so and so.
I don't know.
Anyway, I mean, because it just happens so much. I think it'll be something along those lines.
Wow.
Nuts, man. Yeah, I don't know, dude. I mean,
I'm glad I'm living today. I'll say.
Right.
yeah,
Same
yeah,
here.
you know, it's
Cheers.
it's excellent time to be
With all
alive.
the craziness, yeah.
Now, like, if I was given
Right.
the choice of, like, look, you know, they told me, like, you fucked up, you made a crime of some sort, we're going to put you in a dungeon, or we're going to sail you to this place that we've named Australia, and, like, you could try it out there. Like,
I would, yeah.
Go to Australia. Let's see
Yeah,
what's
me
up.
too. Yep.
Let's see what's happening. I would definitely go ahead and I'll take that trip. You know,
But-
What do you think is the best decade for people?
the best
people
decade
now?
I would say 2010.
Yeah, now.
Yeah,
For me,
2010
There's not a
is the
decade
best
that's
decade.
been better than the current one
Yeah.
in the history.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Because we have
Medicine,
the advancements
yeah.
of medicine that are perpetually going. We have a continual raise in the standard of living for even the lowest
Yeah.
common denominator.
Yeah.
Like, you can say all you want about the increase of wealth and the gaps,
Right.
but actually if you take the lowest common denominator and see the level of goods and food and all that they have,
It's actually cut down
perpetually
a lot.
higher
It's true.
than even
Right.
40 years ago. So
Yeah.
you, on every level of the system right now is better than any period of the history. And there's not an example where you could say, well, that's not true here, that's not true.
That
here.
is
agree.
definitely true.
I'm with you
Yeah, it's
100%.
right now. You know, we like to think that, like, idealistically, like, you know,
The good
there's,
old days
there's some
and-
good old days
yeah.
out there where things
See,
were
right.
better.
For me, it's 1960s because there was so much happening in 1960s.
Well, I wasn't there,
With
man. You
music,
can't fault me
no,
for
no,
that.
no. I'm talking about music. I'm talking
Yeah.
about music,
Well, my dude,
entertainment.
you weren't there. You know how they treated black people
That
back
is
in
I
the
mean, that's what I'm
1960s?
saying.
Yeah.
The civil rights.
Well,
But I'm
well.
saying interesting. I'm saying that it was good. It was, but people were involved. Politics, you know, music.
Yeah.
You know, it was so much going on in the '60s. Civil rights movements, women's rights, you know, gay rights. You know, it was all kinds of things happening.
So in this sense,
You
in
know
this
what I mean?
decade,
That's what I'm talking
we've
about.
got the gay rights movement. We've got the opening of YouTube, and we sing on
Well,
this,
yeah.
you know, Songify, where Joe Public can just become a singer and
Exactly.
put their voice out there.
I
do
agree,
it.
I agree.
I have 30 people that follow me
Oh, yeah?
randomly,
I
and I'm
agree,
a
I
terrible
agree.
singer for the record. Like, one of the worst.
Hey, you may blow up, man. You never know. Somebody put you out there,
Relative
put you
to
into a
what's
meme.
important to to you too, because I mean, I might have been noble in another life.
And you're not noble now?
I'm just a commoner now.
So you're saying that if you're rich in any given century, it's better than being
It could
poor.
have been better.
So
Are we talking about the 60s or just any time?
So
in history?
let's pretend like you were.
Because yeah, 60s
Let's
you were
pretend like you
richer.
were rich in the 60s versus
Yes.
being poor right now. Right now, as a poor person, you have full access to GPS.
Yes.
So you can get
That's what I was
wherever you
gonna
want.
say.
You have better flights. So if you want to go visit Europe, it's easy, it's fast, it's safe.
You can
But
still
that's
maybe
just
get a
all
car,
relative.
public
And that's-
It's all
transportation.
relative. Like
I see
in
what
the
you're saying,
60s, it was a
Edison,
lot cheaper.
like-
It was a lot cheaper to fly. It was, in the 60s, there was more competition in airlines. Now it's only about 3 or 4. Back in the 60s, you had like 10.
And
Like,
it's still
airlines.
cheaper to fly
Like-
right now.
But
That's
I
not
think
that to a lot of people. It
Comparatively,
is.
yeah, because it's
Like-
easier. It's
But you have to pay
technology
the
that
extras.
we've-
But you have to pay all the extras. You got to pay for special luggage. You got to pay for food. They put all these surtaxes on it.
far more people, even as a percentage, fly now than in the 60s.
I
Yeah.
I would
would
say
disagree
far
with that.
more. Like,
Yeah.
I would
mean,
disagree
it's
with that.
I don't even
guess,
think
but-
it's
Because
gonna be a small
competition,
number.
Yeah.
competition throws you have competition. Because here you don't have competition.
But even competition aside, it's just the fact that it's proliferation of technology.
Well, I understand
How
that.
I don't know when the Wright brothers was it
1903. or
1903 to 1960 versus 1903 to 2017.
Well, okay, let me bring up mine here real quick. So yeah, today, 1861, the Western Union completes the first transcontinental telegraph line. So that happened today. The Western Union Telegraph Company linked the eastern and western telegraph networks of the nation at Salt Lake City, Utah, completing the transcontinental line that for the first time allowed instantaneous communications between Washington, D.C. and San Francisco.
I think that's actually that might be the most significant that we've spoken about here. If you just
That's pretty-
consider the end result of,
Sure.
I mean,
How it
The
affects
internet
our
and
the
all
lives.
that
internet,
stuff.
exactly, and
That was
Sure.
that was the genesis. You know?
Exactly.
it's really
yeah.
the genesis of it's almost, or you could say, having every single person in the world on at your fingertips.
Yeah. And 1861. You know, that's
That's
a long ass time ago.
Oh,
you know, people still traveling by railroad.
I would have been happy back then.
You've been happy in 1861?
Assuming you weren't dying from tuberculosis.
I was gonna say, there's so much now that we take for granted that we just wouldn't. Like you said back then, you know, it's easy to maybe watch movies
Romanticize
and
it,
romanticize
right.
where it's just like, well, in real life, that dude really would have just taken a shit right there next to him, and you know, it's just like,
So let's make you a noble woman in the 1860s. You love to travel more than anything in life, so
I
you're
would've
not
been
going to go to
okay.
Europe or
I
anything like
would've
that.
been okay with
B,
that.
you're married to some guy that your parents set you up with, and C, one of your kids is probably dying of tuberculosis. So that's
That's
as a noble
nutshell.
lady in the 1860s.
And if that kid doesn't work, you're gonna have another one.
Gotta keep that line going, baby.
Gotta keep it going. Gotta pump them out. Boom, 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 boom. You know.
There's still parts I like about it. I'm not a big technology person.
Well, yeah,
you know
whatever,
that.
you know,
I
I
like
mean-
the values during that time. Like,
the values.
yeah, there's certain values that I like.
Like being
Doing
able
well.
Like sitting together as a family for
Okay.
dinners and
and branding women with a big A,
was-
have an affair.
I wouldn't have allowed that in my family, but yeah.
What doing what? What's
I don't
what's
know,
that take?
some old-timey period when I was a noble and I got to learn many languages and
you.
study piano all day and never had to work.
Carried around the
you
umbrella.
could do that now.
And
Well, I
wear
don't know
pretty
what.
dresses.
Dresses, yeah, we get the corsets and stuff. Almost like, what's the name of that show that was on PBS?
wouldn't be opposed to
Downton
that.
Abbey. That's what you're looking for?
Yeah.
Some
That
Downton
was-
Abbey.
Yes.
Wait, Downton Abbey was.
That was later.
I was gonna
That
say.
was later, but still,
But even
you know
then,
that
like-
whole
Something
type
along
of
those lines.
yeah.
But
that
back then,
lifestyle.
nobles. There's still some things that nobles
Can't
didn't have
control,
back then.
like health.
Than like our poorest people have now.
Well, there's a lot more. There's a lot more structure. At the
Yeah.
very least, is that things are a lot more structured, a lot more dependable. I think that's what's frightening, I guess, about as,
And people now are
democracy
always
and
like
independence and
moving,
freedom.
like friends
Yeah.
move constantly. Back then it was like one town and everybody grows up all their lives. That
Yeah.
can be a bad thing, but it can also be a
be a good
beautiful
thing,
thing
too.
because you know people like all your lives.
that is true. That is true. It's
But if someone did move back then, you'd never see them again.
never.
Right.
Right.
or ever hear from them.
I guess that's
Well,
why
there's
it was
such thing
always.
as letters.
Wait a second, that's
There was
why.
such thing as people writing actual letters rather
Yeah,
than
which would be
typing
cool.
email.
Thank you. You got me.
That's
You
why it was
understand.
always.
Yeah, I do.
Would you be literate?
Oh,
enough to write
definitely.
that
I'd rather.
then?
Yeah,
I'd
we were
rather.
noble. I
Tell
said
me
that
the
was
truth.
noble.
Would you rather receive a letter than an email?
Yes.
I don't care.
I
wouldn't
would.
care.
See, I would.
I love
to
a
me, a
handwritten
letter is
note.
more personal.
I would
it's
generally
more.
say I wouldn't care,
How about-
except we got one from somebody, and I thought it was like a thank you for one of our Halloween parties
It was
or
the
whatnot.
sweetest
And it was
thing
the
ever.
sweetest thing.
It's not. I mean,
I think it's
like-
more personal.
Nice-
I
it
think
is
a
more
letter
personal,
writing is personal.
But you
I
know
think
what
I'm
though?
just-
I think that's why in those movies, old movies, when there's that trope plot where young guy goes off to some other place, the
Right.
entire town gets together and they're like, "You're leaving, man. Well, everybody needs to go ahead and say goodbye. Our one hero, our town representative
hit
is
me up
going
on
out into
Facebook,
the
guys.
world and doing something big
it's
with
Snapchat.
himself."
Or going off to
Yeah.
war.
Yeah, I'm
War
saying that's
II.
like we
Yeah,
can
going off to
Snapchat.
war.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm not good with goodbyes, okay?
No, that's. I just mean as far as that person leaving. Now, thanks to these and this, they've never really left. That's
Well,
what
Still
true.
a
really-
difference. though.
They're still there. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I talked to my mom, but she's just not. I mean, I can talk to her, but she's just not like. here.
Where's your mother?
Taiwan.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And
Don't
have
you wish you were just still with her?
sure.
Something.
Has she came to the United States and been here several times? And
Well, she had me here, so I was born here.
mm-hmm.
But she went back to Taiwan when I was 4 years old, and then grew up there.
Do you write letters?
Wow. Okay.
Do you see her often though?
Not real,
don't
not
think-
physically, but just on the
Yeah.
phone.
Does she write to you? Or the email? I'm just
That's funny,
curious.
because
I'm
I
just
actually
curious.
write letters to
Sort
my
of like an
girlfriend.
instant message. She always post articles.
But I mean, people move now because they want to see the wild world. I mean, you've talked so much about how when we retire, we're going to travel around the world, and
Oh, you got to. Man.
And
You
I
have
mean,
to
we do it a
travel.
lot right now, and we don't see our friends during those periods, and that kind of makes it better. Like, friends go out of our lives, but friends also come into our lives. We've met a lot of people over the last couple of years.
Yeah, you gotta learn to say, let's learn to say goodbye. And you speaking of Taiwan brought up something interesting. I had a coworker who was telling me about his trip to Hong Kong and back,
Okay.
and he was telling me that every time he goes, because his mother lives out there and his family and stuff, and he goes to visit them. And he said every time he goes and he visits them and he comes back to the United States, he's always like 20 times more thankful about the experiences he has here in the United States.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said
Because
here.
he was just telling me about the lifestyle in like Hong Kong, and he got an Airbnb, but even the Airbnb room that he was staying in there was like, he was describing to me, it was like maybe the
Tiny.
size of those, like, that row of like
Right.
seats
Yeah, it's
there,
pretty
and
cramped.
like 4 people are living in there. They got double bunks, and the bathroom is right there. You tell me the bathroom is actually the
Very
toilet is
small.
in the shower,
Right.
and it's like literally like
Wow.
a slot you
It's
slide
probably
into.
like $7,000 a month.
And he said it wasn't that
least.
expensive. He was like, it was in the 200s or so a night for him to stay, but that's
I
still
know
expensive.
Tokyo is what's super expensive.
Yeah, and he was telling me that though. But once you go to the countryside, like straight, like once you get out of Hong Kong, it's like instantly rural. It's just like instantly
Wow.
like people are like 30, 40 years behind. It seems like
Sure.
and they don't have any of the modern day conveniences. He's saying that is like his family out there. They have a generator like connected to their house without serve electricity. You have to go get gas, pour
Yeah.
the generator, crank it up, and that's how they
kerosene.
have power and stuff like that. And it's just like night and day. One thing is too, man, I don't know if I could do. He's telling me like in the morning, like in rush hour, like there's literally rush hour in the hallways of these sky rises. So it's like Hong Kong is like so packed
Yeah.
that like literally thousands of people live in one building.
Yeah.
So like it's like just to get downstairs is like you like marching in a slow line while everybody tries to fit down the corridors to
Yeah,
the
that's
ground
going to be
floor.
New York
That's
in
insane.
like 30
Yeah.
or 40 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Most big cities. I always feel like I feel like now it's like, have we reached peak civilization? I don't
Well,
know.
we still have room to expand, and we have. Well, I don't know. I mean, how
How
good is our
about
infrastructure going to be?
population?
We can't even get infrastructure freaking done here in the United States, right? We can't even get Marta to come, like,
Up north.
Right.
up north. It's insane. Like
Right.
that's like just can't
Well,
get
That
around
has a
it.
lot to do with
No political will. You know?
Exactly, that's to do with the community voting against it.
Yeah.
It's not because of Marta.
Why?
That's because
Do they want
racism.
traffic?
Racism.
Yeah, crime.
It's
They
because
think
of
it's gonna be
racism.
easy for
It's
people to
racism
hop on
is the-
Mana, come here, rob people, and
Or
then
come
hop
back.
people.
right,
Yeah, you know?
right.
Yeah.
We
Steal
don't
all my
want
stuff.
we don't want those people to come in my
Exactly.
Is there
neighborhood.
It's
anything
insane.
valid to that?
As a counter to the transportation, because I would be against it, and it has nothing to do with racism or.
Well, maybe not you, but
It's an
majority, because
incredible
I've talked to
amount
people
of
about it.
money being spent on something that I and a lot of other people simply would not
So maybe
use.
that's
So there's
why
not
they're-
enough.
But the
Why?
majority
What
of
reason is
people
that?
that I talked to was racism.
We are the most
really?
spread out city, and in order to
So we
set up
would
a
have to
MARTA, we would
still
have
get a
so many
bus?
different complicated stops that it would still take hours. It would be impossible to get a train going to all the different.
But this is something eventually that's
that's
gonna
bull.
happen.
That is so much
I was
bull.
gonna say the amount of traffic here. I
Yeah,
thought-
we could be.
Every
wouldn't-
city,
that wouldn't be
major
helpful,
city
you don't
has.
think? Like
I
just to
think
have.
it absolutely.
If we
would
started
help.
20 years ago, where would we be now? You know?
I'd be home in 20 minutes.
If we started
Instead
even
of
30
an
years
hour.
That
ago,
was the-
where would we be now?
In Gwinnett
Well,
County, that was the main
really-
reason when I first came in Atlanta. Gwinnett County had the same. Well, I can't travel. You see, Gwinnett has buses now because people are fed up of the traffic on I-85 and everything. And the same with Cobb County. Now Cobb County has their own transit system.
Yeah.
Well,
Why?
Hold on a second.
Why?
One second. Lawrence, what were you going to say real quick?
Well, I was thinking one solution could maybe increase the usage of public transport is to eliminate these free parking spaces in downtown or make it expensive because
The
They don't have
economy
a ton.
would.
Well, at least that I've seen.
No, it's
I
not
hate
free
paying for parking.
downtown.
No, it's not free downtown.
well, I mean like parking, going to shops, you those spaces like you're not.
Or make it more expensive.
So
Yeah,
so
like-
But
that would
people
encourage
take Marta.
people to
I,
take.
I think the real answer here is
I don't know
what
about
what
political will, but-
we're going towards is live, work, play. Like you're not. We've got this spread out metropolis. Why? We don't really need it. We're starting to build, the Greenway and the
Right,
Beltline,
Beltline.
and we're actually making good progress as a city. But we're trying to encourage people to start living back in the city instead of the suburbs. Then you don't need a car. Then you can just take the Beltline.
Yep.
We can't
Then
live in the city.
Why can't we live
It's
in the
too
city?
expensive, and there's not a lot of houses. It's already built up.
Yeah, now, dude,
I live
I
in
mean,
the
that's,
city.
That's not
yeah.
an option.
it's super expensive. So
I wish I had that
what do you do for those
option.
people?
Yeah.
Georgia is like, I don't know. And I don't care. That's Georgia's response.
Have
Like,
fun on that hour-long
they'll figure it
cruise.
out.
Every major
Yeah,
city
yeah.
has a really good
Georgia don't care about
transportation,
poor people.
except Atlanta.
I
And
know.
don't tell me it's because it's racism. And I know you don't disagree. Maybe not you, but majority of the people that I talked to was I don't want those people to come up in my neighborhood
it's more classism, I think, is layered on top
or
of that.
classes.
Sure.
There is a classism
Yes.
element.
I saw that like admin rooms, everything is how the system was like when they were designing the laws, they rigged the system against African Americans, so it kind of just the wealth.
What
and
you call me? No, I'm joking.
and the wealth gap,
Yeah.
and the wealth and the wealth gap kind of just
Has perpetuated.
yeah, and you have these neighborhoods that are not very attractive economically and just kind of.
Yeah,
Like,
the
they look like
gentrification.
Gwinnett.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I thought
this
you were going to bring.
neighborhood's fine.
That's a good
I saw pieces like
They
this.
look like Gwinnett. What
He
happened
has
to
a
Gwinnett?
podcast.
Gwinnett used to be
I
a
don't
very,
listen to- I listen to it. It's
really
good, yeah.
good neighborhood to live
Too
in.
much
But now people say, oh, because of Marta, we have a lot
I'll
of
check it out
Latinos
sometime.
and Mexicans.
Show you
going
my
there.
yeah.
So that's why they don't like. Yeah.
Who said
I mean,
that?
I'm
What
serious.
city
I
is
mean,
it? What
it's.
town?
I
they
think that's an
that they
intersecting
Warsaw?
issue. I don't think that's it.
Yeah,
But,
I'm
I think
always
that
listening to something
that can
else,
be.
but-
I think that there are people out
Yeah,
there who
trying to
crunch
digest
numbers and are
all
like,
the-
hey,
Exactly.
we know that this type of
Or school
perception
system.
brings down property values.
Or
So
the schools.
whether the perception is true or not doesn't matter. All
That's
that
what they
matters
think.
is that it goes ahead and brings down the property value. So we need to go ahead and keep this type of perception about our neighborhood
And now
and
our
our
schools
community.
won't deteriorate.
Exactly. So long as the perception is
That's the
like
perception.
picket fences and
But they won't say
subdivisions
racist. They won't
that
say-
that are empty and clean and that are devoid of culture. That is just surrounded by
we have a lot of
shopping
culture.
centers and Apple stores and stuff. Then then that's what these communities are going to try to keep it like.
But we already have diversity here, even in our little prim and proper neighborhoods. It's like Asian, black, white.
Yeah.
That's what
What's so
these
strange about
schools are known
Georgia
for, but
is that it's so freaking like cookie cutter around here. Like up in New Jersey and stuff like that, you see stores owned by small business owners,
Same with
by
Philly.
different types of like literally families. They would own a shop and stuff and sell their things,
Oh,
whatever
yeah,
it is,
we don't.
plumbing.
Yeah.
All you see around here is
It's
just
same.
warehouse retail stores, just like literally like duplicates of shopping centers,
Centers.
Or
just
chains.
spreading out
Two
across
blocks.
neighborhoods.
I hate
yeah,
it.
it's so
It's so
Strip
ugly.
malls.
there is no. It's like so devoid of like, I think a culture
Exactly.
here. It's
is.
it's like all these empty shopping centers. You see all these empty office complex buildings. It's like what is happening there? Why isn't it turned into something useful? I mean, I know the reasons why. It's more of a rhetorical question. It's really disappointing to see that in up here in Georgia, at least in this suburban part of it.
Sure.
But y'all done?
I think we're good.
We think we're done?
Yeah.
I think we're
I think
done.
we
Look at
hashed
that.
a lot out here.
Yeah, that was actually record time, man. That was literally a solid. If you
About
cut
2
out the
hours, right?
early, no, because
Oh.
I had it recording for like a good 30 minutes or so before we actually started doing this. So just a little bit under 2 hours. Solid.
Cool.
So I think we should have a peace pipe or something. So.
Yeah, I have
So
peace
bad.
pipe around.
No problem.
Did anyone see
Only
Blade Runner?
tobacco substances.
No,
I'm kidding.
Blade Runner. No.
Huh?
The guy will find-
Did anyone
No,
see
I
that?
haven't seen
Not
I
it.
saw
yet.
Blade Runner and I
second
was
one?
disappointed. Yes, the second one.
I didn't
I
like
was
that.
disappointed.
You liked it? I heard it got bad reviews.
It was
So
No, that movie
it got
was
great
excellent.
reviews.
Really?
And it also
Excellent.
got
Mixed.
2 hours 45 minutes.
Yes.
So
Is
That was
great?
a big
That's
part
like
of the
it
problem.
literally
got a
my
lot of
one
people
look.
saying it's perfectly average. Like they say
was
that it was
average.
very easy to cut about an hour of the movie.
Yeah.
You would have lost nothing.
Yeah.
Harrison Ford did a terrible job.
Yeah.
Really?
I
That's
thought it was
true.
okay.
Jared
It was
Leto was
okay.
even worse.
They
Oh
I
my
thought it
God.
was good. It was too long. That was my one complaint. But visually, it was like the
They
best
said
looking
that it was
movie
some of the
I've
best visuals
ever
ever.
seen.
I felt like I was watching a 2-hour-long slideshow of the best sci-fi concept art possible. It was like it
It's
was
amazing.
gorgeous. It was just slide after slide of these beautiful renditions of Blade Runner and the city and that concept. But the story was so
I liked
empty
it.
to me, man.
You watched
it
the
was so
first one,
empty.
right?
5 out of 10.
You watched the
To
first
me-
one, right?
Yeah, I saw the first one.
Which cut did you see?
The original.
Oh my
like the
God.
original
No,
cut.
you gotta watch. You
I
gotta
don't
watch
watch
the
any director's
final cut.
The final cut?
I'm
No,
telling you,
okay.
it will.
I'm not a
literally
huge Blade Runner
change
fan.
the whole
Same
entire
here.
Blade Runner 2. It's based on the that's
Why?
To me, the best one I ever saw was 2000.
Well, if you don't care, I guess you're probably not gonna watch it anyway. But
That was a good movie.
I'm sorry.
if you watch the director's cut, you know that Harrison Ford was a replicant himself the whole time. They don't have that in the original. There's some things that give it away. The dude in the second one that does the origami on the table.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what sets up Blade Runner 2 because he has a baby with the other replicant.
Oh,
and that was supposed to be impossible to do.
Yeah.
2001 is a great movie.
I didn't.
It's just
That's a good
blew-
movie.
I
to
didn't
me, that-
like I
was some
didn't like
fantastic
the
science fiction
switcheroo
movie
they
I
did
saw.
in that movie. It felt like they made the character, the main character, completely non-essential in
Okay.
in 2049.
You have to watch that at home.
It was just
That long.
look. It
It's
feels like
long. It's
Great.
long. That's my
Well,
one
this is-
thing. Like
it's a Netflix movie. It's a Netflix movie. Like I would not have been
Yeah.
disappointed
No way.
if I watched it
No
at
way, I
Netflix.
wouldn't
Or we
think
can
that.
rent it
I would
at
think you had
If
to
I
see it live
watched,
screen.
I spent $30
just
in the
pirate
theater,
it.
man,
Pirate
and I was
$30?
not like
Oh,
that.
'cause
you went
were two
IMAX
people.
or something.
Huh? I bought popcorn and stuff. My ticket was like $15. I like when I go to the movies. I go to the movies. I get
So
popcorn.
we've got
$30.
NCG right down there. It's $5 movies on Tuesday.
Oh yeah.
$5.
Yeah, I went to the AMC that's right down
Yeah.
over there near.
I won't see any
Johns
movie
Creek.
except at NCG because not only is it a $5 or $8 on any other day, but it also has the best movie watching experience. It has the most best seats and everything.
And TJ, really?
Yeah, and they've got whenever you buy a candy or a popcorn, it's all free refills on it. Eventually,
That's nice. That's nice. I should have saw it. I haven't seen that
That's
yet.
good.
That
I
was
wanna
actually
see
That's
pretty
good.
good.
It was
That was
pretty
a good
funny.
movie.
Yeah.
It wasn't scary at all. I thought it was just kind of funny.
yeah, it
It's
wasn't
like,
scary.
you ever seen Stranger Things?
I don't
Yeah.
think it's
It's literally
funny.
the R-rated version of
Oh,
that.
okay.
Quite literally, the R-rated version of Stranger Things is it. It's just it was. Yeah, I even had one of the characters from that.
From
He's
that
in
in
it
there.
as
Oh,
well,
okay.
yeah.
And they put him in there. Yeah, I was like,
That was
good
good.
Stephen King movie? Wow. Because it
Yeah, that was
completely
a
messed
good
up The
movie.
Dark Tower, which is one of my favorite series by him. And I'm so disappointed in that. But Stephen King, you know.
It was
What
a
can you
solid
expect?
movie.
It's good.
It was kind of a coming of age with a
Yes.
horror film side story
Yep.
and whatnot
Mhm.
that really worked. The characters were excellent. They had me looking forward to the sequel
Of
and all that
course.
stuff. So
40 years or 27 years when they're 40.
27
yeah.
years
Right.
later when they come back and all that
Yes.
stuff.
Yeah, I was heard that the movie is more creepy than scary.
Yeah.
I looked at it, like you said, to me it was more of a underdog movie.
Yeah.
Kids who are all losers in their own
But
way.
it does have
But
some
kind of
creepiness.
finding a redemption by working together. To
It
me,
is
what I
scary
got.
a
It's
little
scary a
bit.
bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Working in
Do
the
y'all all
sewer.
live around here?
I live in the city. I live in Midtown.
Oh, in Midtown.
Yeah.
It takes quite a drive to get
Yeah, I
Yeah.
live like right down here in Duluth. It takes me literally like 5 minutes.
Traffic
Oh,
is
I heard
brutal.
y'all came to my house when I had
Yeah.
like 8 loads of dishes that were dirty.
Oh,
so
no.
I'm so
Shoot.
humiliated.
You didn't wash.
Yeah, I
You
didn't
didn't tell.
know a kid.
Whatever. It's
No,
fine.
it was fantastic.
I was
I
so
appreciate you letting me
embarrassed,
come by
but-
then.
Your dogs are very friendly.
Yeah, your
Oh,
dogs are
good.
awesome.
Oh.
You didn't wash the dishes for them.
Oh, God.
I can't believe it, man.
Yeah.
Angie was like, they're gonna think we're the biggest slobs ever because we had a load
It
of
was
dishes.
bad. The counters were awful.
No, the
That
counters
was
weren't
like
awful.
our
I cleaned the
worst
counters.
day. Oh, God. Before they got there?
Yeah, I mean, I had cleaned the counters when I was bored before it. So.
Do you have any pets?
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
maybe.
two dogs.
I don't
Two
know.
dogs.
Did you see Dunkirk?
Dunkirk? No, I
That was
heard
a
that was
terrible
excellent.
movie.
You
I
like
did
that?
not like
No?
that.
Not even a tiny bit.
Was it?
Did
I
you
liked
see
it.
it? You
I liked
liked
it.
it?
3 out of
Yeah.
10. 3
Three
out
out
of
of
10.
10?
The one I do have a big complaint, and it's my complaint with all Chris Nolan
Not factual.
movies.
Not factual.
It's almost like he's never been in love before. I had a friend. Like he has no way
He's
to
a
like
machine.
make anyone feel.
Yeah.
And his movies are just very like mechanical.
We're
Yeah.
crisp.
That would be my one
Yeah.
thing with
They,
Dunkirk. Like
they didn't
No.
try to
They're
follow
not.
any characters, and you didn't care. I was like, yeah,
I
all
was
these
lost.
things happen.
Yeah.
The pilot looked like another guy. They looked the same. I was like, wait, is that the same guy?
I just didn't care about one character in there. I was like,
That's-
live or die. I don't care.
to
and
me,
I
that's
can't
Chris
get into
Nolan
the story.
movies.
Yeah.
He doesn't give you like a
And the emotion.
connect. Yeah, it's almost like he's a machine.
Yeah,
It
man,
seems
he
like
just
the
comes about.
story
He's
should
got a- he's
lend
got a formula and he
itself
sticks
to
with it.
emotion.
It's true, but I know what you mean. I had a kind of cold feeling. Like that was good, but
What the heck?
I mean, I didn't
Yeah.
think it was good. I just felt it was somewhat realistic in the sense of just, following these stories and being like, okay, things happen around and there's all these people who are trying to make a difference but really can't make a ton and all that. But you just didn't care about any of them. I was like, live, die, I don't care.
Dang. Oh man, you know what? Wes Craven. Somebody needs to redo one of my classic.
No.
Classic horror movies that everybody forgot about is The People Under the Stairs. You remember that movie?
No.
You ever see
No.
that?
No.
See,
I'm not a horror
nobody's
movie.
seeing it.
I'm
Oh,
not a
it's an
big-
old Wes
Never
Craven
heard of it.
movie,
Yeah,
and it's
I'm
it's
just
hilariously, like, it's super bad, but it's good because
But
it's so
good
bad.
because it's so
It's an awesome concept. These two burglars try to break. It's also kind of a racist movie, but it's pretty racist. It's like two black guys, like this
Burglars.
black kid break into this like rich white guy's house,
Oh.
and like but the house is like trapped, and it locks them inside, and then the homeowners come home, and these homeowners are like the
Sounds
the
like
most-
Clockwork Orange.
huh?
Clockwork Orange. You ever
Yeah,
see
yeah,
that?
no, actually,
That's Kubrick as well.
Huh?
That's a Kubrick movie. As well.
Yeah, Sandy.
This
I
is
love
Wes
Sandy.
Craven,
Me
but
too, man.
it's really
Every
good.
movie.
Y'all need to
Wow.
watch it out there. Watch it. It's
David
People
Leeds.
Under the Stairs.
I feel like Chris Nolan is Stanley Kubrick without making you really, really care about the characters.
What did you like
Lawrence
about
Olivier.
Dunkirk, if you don't mind me asking? If you agree that it was emotionless.
To me, it was kind of emotion. I did like the story. I like the realism, and I mean Dunkirk, especially. It's something, especially in England, that's like a big point. So I told my girlfriend because she absolutely fucking hated it. Too. She was just like, "It's too loud. What's going on?" Like literally, that's all. We saw it in IMAX, and number one, it's shot in 70mm. So even if you've been to the IMAX in Buford, it literally is the entire screen up and down. So and we got there late, so it was front row, and she hated it. So
That's it.
what was I? But so to me, I did like it was very realistic. I did like the story overall. I generally liked it. It was just I just had a cold feeling about it almost, just like.
Fascinating.
which Chris Nolan movies can do that.
Yeah.
Even though I actually like him a lot.
Yeah, it
But-
didn't get horrible reviews. I don't
It didn't get horrible.
I think it
We
got
both
decent.
hated it.
Yeah.
Well, you know, the critic reviews versus the actual user reviews.
I want to say critic reviews were pretty
Oh, yeah?
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they
Because
love
we
Chris
were
Nolan.
like-
That's what I meant. That's what I'm saying. Like the critic reviews are always like, this is, especially those like epic historical picks and stuff like that. It's like, amazing, perfect.
Oh, yeah, because
Yeah,
I was
but the
surprised
average
when
viewer
we
goes in
saw
and
it.
watching. You're like,
Yeah.
I was like,
I mean, there's some who were exceptional, like Lawrence of Arabia.
Oh, what's his
I mean,
name?
that's
Michael
incredible.
Bay. So Michael Bay is doing.
I hate him. I'm not watching
Well, no, Terminator 2, right?
No, wait.
Right?
No, that's
Yeah.
James Cameron.
James
No,
Cameron. I'm
no,
sorry.
Do not
sorry.
confuse.
My
no.
bad, folks.
No.
They look the
They
same.
are not the same person at all.
But,
Michael Bay destroyed my childhood.
Oh yeah.
Transformers.
Transformers and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, two of my
dude.
favorite
Yeah,
franchises.
There you
Awful,
go. Yeah.
Yeah, not that guy. Crichton.
Michael Crichton.
Michael
Michael
Crichton. He's looking to go ahead and actually step in to make another Terminator movie. He's
Oh,
gonna-
really?
To
And
me,
they
there are
destroyed
only
it
two.
with the last one.
To me, there are only two Terminator movies.
Yeah, right.
refuse to
He,
acknowledge.
so the idea is
There's
to
only
back
one
it up.
Highlander movie.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
The idea is to retroize the movie, kind of like how they did with like Stranger Things and I guess It and stuff, and make it take place after 2. So that's the idea.
Okay.
And he's gonna step in and direct it.
Let's see.
Highlanders made Highlanders 3 surprisingly good by declaring the entire movie 2 to be all a dream.
Sure. Yeah. It's just like, really. Yeah, that's okay. So, what movies did you guys like? Have you seen any this year?
Um,
You know,
Well,
you
so
haven't
we-
liked
We
a
haven't
single
been
movie?
watching
we
movies
we
lately.
watched them on the thing. We watched what was the movie about the Meryl Streep as a singer?
Oh, Florence Foster Jenkins. Was that good?
Forrest. I'd
didn't
give
see
it
that.
about
No?
a 7
You
out of
didn't like
10.
it?
So
I'm
pretty
just
good.
surprised you knew the name of it.
I like movies.
Yeah.
Well, actually, yeah.
Same here. I like
Yeah.
movies
I
too.
gave it about a
I'm
7.
a big movie
Excellent
guy.
Same here.
It was
characterization.
slow at first, but had a good, nice point.
Yeah,
at
it
the end.
came together really well.
That's all
Great
we've
acting.
seen. We've read a lot of
Um,
books and stuff.
Cool.
I'm a fan more of I think this is a golden age for like TV and stuff. There's a
Yeah.
lot of good
It really
long
is.
running series and
I
stuff out of
agree.
there. So I more stick to that. You know, in the theaters, I think the last thing I saw was Star Wars Rogue One. Before I saw
I thought
Blade
that was
Runner.
okay.
That was,
I thought Rogue One was okay.
I thought it was.
I thought Rogue One was
better.
Great.
I thought it was
better than
yeah.
7 by far.
Definitely
Yes.
better by
I-
7
I'll
by
give
far.
you that.
You haven't played
Fantastic.
it too safe.
Yeah.
Yeah, 7 was literally just one, or whichever. The
4.
very first.
Yeah,
Yeah,
which
it was literally like, I was like, it's just, they made
A
the same
duplicate.
movie.
They made
yeah.
the same
like-
exact movie. Yeah, exactly. Rogue One was excellent. I thought that was better.
Yeah, it was.
That
I
was
liked it. That was.
really done
That's
really
impressive. If I.
well. You know, I thought the last season of House of Cards was pretty dope.
Don't tell
Yep.
me. I haven't
Oh,
played
yeah.
it.
We're watching it.
Riverdale's an excellent show. I mean, I liked Archie, but this kind of dark, edgy Archie is really, really cool. Very well done.
Okay.
Good story.
Never seen.
You guys watch The Deuce? Anyone?
The Deuce?
That show on
No.
HBO.
It's HBO, yeah.
It looks, yeah. James Frank. He's like the porn king in New York, 1970s.
I haven't seen that one.
That looks pretty.
Bill Nye Saves the World was
Oh, is that
excellent.
good?
Oh,
It's
yeah?
fantastic,
Okay.
actually.
That's on Netflix.
We were highly
Okay.
amused by it because it's all made for adults,
Okay.
and he really does go into deep topics and has
Y'all would like
diverse
that because he's
panels.
hitting on current issues. And
Cool.
Right, so it's
Yeah.
very current.
He's kind of
very-
talking about, like he'll say climate change, is it real or not? And then he'll show science behind it.
Gotcha.
Right, he's really just
That's solid.
funny.
Yeah,
like
that's
that
all.
one.
Yeah, that's about it. I know Walking Dead is on. I kind of gave up on that. You know, it's you know, I'm a fan still, but it just went downhill. Wasn't really that interesting. You know, the Marvel series that are coming out. I thought Luke Cage was decent, but I'm
I
not
don't like that.
Yeah?
I thought it was boring.
I
It's the
have
guy
heard
that
terrible things
it's the
about
guy
it.
that plays him. I just think they should just save money and just get a cardboard cutout. It'll probably be the same. Like he has no like
Personality.
personality.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just
yeah,
like,
yeah.
like who cares about this guy?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
I mean, that Luke Cage series was more about the feel of the movie, the atmosphere of it, then I think that more than about the character development.
Daredevil was good.
Which is not saying much. I'm just
I
saying.
just think they're trying to put together the Defenders, or
Yeah.
so giving each of them
Yes.
their own series.
Defenders is out. I think
Yeah,
it
I think
came
that
out
I
a
think they
couple weeks
started
ago.
it. I'm
Yeah,
not.
I like
I'm not
Daredevil.
really
I
interested.
heard Jessica Jones is good. I never watched that. But
Yeah, I heard
Luke Cage, to
Iron
me,
Fist
just-
was really bad too.
Yeah, I
thought
never-
that was like, I'm not really into it. I mean,
They're coming out
it's-
with the Punisher.
Yeah, I
That
did
might
see
be
the
good.
preview for that, and I was like, I don't know, I may watch that. You know, I'm a fan of Brent Dahl.
Yeah, I
think
like
he's
that
good.
guy.
He's pretty solid.
Anybody like animated shorts? I love animated shorts. I just wondered, do you get into that? Animated?
Like what?
Pixar.
Like
God, there's a whole Wally.
Oh, just
Well,
the
he's a
animated
movie,
movies.
though.
Yeah, movies. You're right. Animated movies. I'm sorry.
Okay,
I can say most
I'm not
Disney
gonna lie. I
songs.
saw Inside Out and like.
Inside
really
Out,
cried, dude.
like
I saw
Wally.
Inside Out,
was-
fantastic.
I like that movie. That was a
Which
good.
one
You
is
see that?
that?
No, I
That's
haven't
the
seen
one
that.
you like, the
depression.
5 emotions
Yeah,
that
dude.
live
Oh,
inside
yeah,
the
that
little
was
girl.
pretty
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. That movie nearly choked me up.
Oh,
dude.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a
HBO
good movie. Yeah.
But HBO goes out with the animated shorts. You know, they have a lot of like little 5-minute Oscar winners.
The early starting, yeah,
yeah.
I enjoy those a lot. I think my favorite one, the lava song that was in front
Oh,
of
right.
that,
I thought, yeah.
where they have a volcano that's sitting there and dreaming
Is that
of
part of
lava.
that movie?
So it's the 5-minute short
Just
that's
a
before
5-minute,
that
yeah.
movie.
I love that song.
And it was a fantastic.
I haven't
I
seen that
used to
one. Yeah,
just
it's fun,
sing it
yeah.
from the thing because that was an
Well,
incredible
they
thing.
featured the guy, I think, who wrote that or sang
Yeah.
that on NPR.
Yeah, we
The
got to
last
listen to
animated
the-
thing I saw was Adventures of Tintin.
Oh, that's pretty. I used to read that.
Yeah, I used to read that, man. That was one of my favorite series.
Steven
Yeah.
Spielberg. did that.
Yeah. That was Adventures of Tintin. He was like the British Indiana Jones.
Yeah, he's a detective.
He's a detective. He has a little
Little-
dog,
little
and he has
Snowy, yeah, Captain Haddock.
Yeah, Captain Haddock.
Oh, yeah, dude, I
and
used
they
to
go
love
around the
Tintin.
world solving,
Yeah.
mysteries and stuff like that.
Wow.
But I think we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up here because I don't want to have to edit too much. of this
He's
off.
doing Ready
Oh, I
Player
thought
One.
this is already off.
I did too.
All right, folks, that's it. We wrapped it up. We faked it out on that last about 20 minutes or so, but we got it done. I hope you guys enjoyed the conversation as much as I enjoyed being there. And like I said, in the intro, we have 2 more in the queue. The next podcast we talk about sexual kinks. We get into LARPing. And we also talk about our current political environment and how it affects us as individuals. We talk about several different topics, all in between there too. I'm in the middle of editing that one now, so by the time I get done listening to it and editing it, I'll definitely have a clearer idea of what the hell we talked about then. Then after that, we have another episode where we get into talking about the mediascape and how it affects our culture. We get into detail talking about Facebook and Google Analytics and how unsavory characters like Russian intelligence are using that information kind of against us in the United States, at least against our political and government system. We also talk about reality TV and a bunch of other pretty cool and interesting topics. Once again though, after I'm done editing it, you'll have a better idea. But thank you guys for stopping in and listening to our conversation, and I'll go ahead and see you guys on the next one. Don't forget, subscribe, like, and listen again. All right, I'm out of here.
Please don't talk about me when I'm gone. Oh, honey, though our friendship ceases from now on. If you can't say anything real nice, it's better not to talk at all.